G'day, hi, and welcome. All right, so yeah, TGIF, toast goes in first. Also, thank God it's Friday. And okay, yesterday was really nice. It was like +10 out there. Almost all the ice is off the roof. This morning, I don't know what the hell happened. It is so damn cold out there right now. It's 12 degrees in here. 35% humidity, 12 degrees. So last night I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be really mild overnight. So I put the heat down like below 10. So it's a little bit colder. Water's not frozen, so I'm okay. But yeah, hopefully it'll warm up a bit during the day there. Got not even a quarter of a finger of vodka in here, so cheers. Just enough to give it flavor, not overwhelm the taste. So if I put that little of booze in every Friday, like a quarter of a finger, if you don't know what a finger is, okay, like, you know, when you go to the bar and they say, you want one finger or two, they like say this much or this much, right? You pay a lot for that. 2 fingers, yeah, and then they put about half, right? Where I put about half Pepsi and like that much, like just like a drop, really, not even a capful. Just enough for the flavor to enjoy the flavor, but you know, it's not about getting drunk or anything for me. So, but I got lots of stuff to talk about. I'm going to do a Babel video today, but I don't think I'm going to do a Babel. Babel. Yeah. Or pig there. So, this is the strangest war. It's just so dystopic. Like, I want you to think about this. Like, there's people that are filming this from neighboring countries, watching these freaking volleys of rockets coming in for sheer entertainment. Like, they're sitting there while people are getting blown up. I'm sitting there, well, hey, I gotta watch this. You know, sitting on the rooftops, you know, have a barbecue going and say, oh, look at that. Crazy. Like, how many people are dead over there? I don't know. Will we ever know? I mean, but we do have stuffs to discuss. So it looks like us Canadians, okay. And again, I know I have to say this every time because, you know, people are very biased, and I understand that, right? And it's hard to move outside your biases. I get that too. If you're a conservative, everything the liberals do is wrong. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot they do wrong. I've complained years and years and years about the liberals. But Mark Carney is definitely not Justin Trudeau. Mark Carney is more like Stephen Harper, which is a good thing. With all the things bad that Mark Carney's do versus all the things that are actually benefiting Canada, we are on the route to becoming a superpower. We're not going to be a middle power for much longer. It's just the man on the street's not going to see the benefits for about 5 to 10 years, right? And I know, like, I'll be dead by then. Well, we all might be dead by then at the rate everything's going, but almost everything in the past year in Canada has been working, like, say, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Right? Where for the past year, everything in the States has pretty much just been moving a step back or half step back. It's just been incrementally deteriorating. The thing about the States is, like I say, their economy's bad, ugly, and disaster right now. And the numbers are showing it. Like, I mean, I have not found in a year really any wins for Donald Trump. Any of the wins he got were deals that were already underway for years, either under the Biden or from his first term, right? So when you let that part sink in, it means nobody's really been trying to do trade with the United States at all, other than if they have to, right? So people are just like cleaning up their deals with the United States that were already in the works right? Just because, like a lot of these deals, once you get them to a certain point, you can't just back out of them without major lawsuits and shit like that. F-35 deal is a good example where we've canceled it twice, and we got sued each time, right? And after putting so much money, like we put over 90 billion into this this fucking program already. You know, a program that we weren't even fully signed into. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're going to get some, but we don't know how many. Blah, blah, blah. We shouldn't have paid a cent for any of that. Like, we should have just said, no, gotta, like, you know, you develop it. Once you have a working fucking aircraft product, then come talk to us. But everybody always wants to be in on the ground floor because you get a better deal if you're in on the ground floor, which is bullshit. You end up just spending money you can't get back, right? But I digress. And with the security issue, the big issue with the F-35s, the biggest issue Canada has with the F-35s is the security issue. We can't trust the Americans. We can't buy fighter jets from a country that's threatening to go to war with us. You know what I mean? There's a conflict of interest there. Yeah. Again, you know, will they shut off the aircraft data links in flight? I don't know if they can actually shut off the engines in flight, but probably. I mean, you know, once you get stuff moving digitally, I mean, it's, you know, yeah, they could probably shut these F-35s off in flight. But at worst, at best case scenario, they could just shut off the Raytheon data link, right? Meaning the airplane is just a paperweight at that point. You know, it flies and functions, but it, you know, can't target anything. You have to fly with your radar on. Yeah, like using, you know, this is the problem that Greenland has right now. Like they have F-35s that it's like, well, if we had to fight against the Americans, they kind of got an advantage because they can blind us, right? So yeah. But Trump's deal was, and we'll get into the whole war stuff in a second, but Trump's deal was basically if I threaten Canada's economy because we only do 2% trade with them and they do about 50% of their economies, you know, basically relies on us. So therefore, Canada's screwing us over, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, none of it's true, but, you know, Canada's so horrible, Canadians are so horrible. They should just, you know, either forfeit now, make themselves the 51st state, and we'll give them a really good deal of the 38 trillion, well, now $41 trillion debt or whatever. Yeah. Like, I still don't get these Maple Magas. It's like, just the fucking one reason, if there's only one reason. Yes, hate Carney because he's a liberal, I get it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we're such authoritarian. Look, the same problems they have up here, they have in the States. Like, there's Americans that think they have freedom of speech down there. It's like last week there was a guy is going to jail for mocking a cop, a Jewish cop. Like it's the same thing you see in the UK. Just you're a little late to the party, but it's the same problem down there as it is up here. The hate speech laws here, okay, are the same ones that come from the UK. The same ones that are in the UK are in Australia and New Zealand, but they're also the same ones that are in America. It's the same group of people. You know, they set out their little divide and conquer Jewish Congress around the world, whatever. Okay, you call it ADL in the States, you call it Anti-Hate Canada, and Hope Not Hate in the UK. They're all funded by the same people. They're all, at the end of the day, running the same laws. You know, it's you know, like it all comes from, you know, the Davos crowd, the World Economic Forum people, the EU, the UN particularly, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. That's all. It's all the same. So thinking like it's all like all these Americans that want to move up to Canada. I don't want you. Like I really don't want you. I don't want fucking progressives coming up here. We have enough of them. No, you got to fight where your feet are. You know, like this idea of flying over to this country and bugging out to that country. There's no safe place in the world, guys. All these people that are like, all these preppers that think they're, you know, they find a nice place in South America, I'm sure. But as soon as the world economy collapses, it's going to be Mad Max down there. Trust me, they're going to know where all the gringos are. You know what I mean? And you are the haves, right? So all this, oh yeah, well, you know, I'll have all my freedoms and everything. No, you're not. Like those countries don't function that way. You know what I mean? Like when we go grid down from this war, you know, it'll be different levels. It'll be splotches. because the war is going to come to the United States, right? It's going to hit them at a very critical time. Now, all of this is done on purpose. Yes, the global elites, including Trump, want to destroy the world economy so they can get their one world economy thing going. They tried it in 2008. They failed, right? But anyway, that's it. Does that mean Carney's a good guy? No. Carney's just a better mob boss. So let's recap here before we keep going. Trump was bitching and whining forever and a day for everybody to spend at least 2% of GDP. Everybody agreed on it, okay, in NATO, right? Everybody agreed on it, okay? And as soon as that, well, that's not good enough, you got to bring it up to 5. So again, and if everybody agreed on that and brought it up to 5, you'd say, well, then you got to make it 10. What Trump was doing was looking for a, because this is how like the Trump Lutnick thing is, these like hyper-capitalist guys think, is that, okay, when we get them to agree to 2%, they'll buy more weapons from us. And then when we force them to go to 5%, they'll buy even more weapons from us. And the opposite has happened. Everybody agreed to the 2%, but we're like, okay, let's build amongst ourselves. You know, like all these new weapons deals that are coming out that, you know, and it's not just Canada, like a lot of countries are watching Canada because like we're the ones that are getting, you know, I think it's just because of the proxy, right? But like between, like Greenland makes no sense whatsoever. Like even to steal the minerals up there, like again, it's not like you could do this stuff over. It's going to take 30 years to get those. There's a reason why, like Trump comes out, yeah, we're going to get rich, we're going to get all these minerals and everything. And when people, it takes them like a month to explain it to this stupid cocksucker that it's like, yeah, you can't just get, that stuff's under 600 feet of ice sheet. Yeah, like just getting through the ice is going to take you 2 years. You know what I mean? Let alone fucking mining it. Like, it's like, there's a reason why it's not done yet. This is why China's not all up. Yes, China has deals up there, but these are going to take years, decades to do. Canada's getting the deals that, you know, basically we're when Trump said he wanted to destroy our economy, the gentleman's agreement we pretty much have in NAFTA and the USMCA and all that aside, kind of went out the window. And it's like, okay, so what you're saying is if Canada can't be a reliable trade partner to you, then we're going to compete with you. Where for years us Canadians said, look, we won't compete with you, and in return you give us a better deal, we'll give you favorability on your automotive, on the military. 70 cents of every dollar that Canada spent on its military went to the United States. Not anymore. That is a huge customer loss. Like the amount of business that Trump has burnt up between Canada and the United States is unbelievable. And there's still people that don't understand how trade works or what you're trading. Yes, Canada buys a lot of junk from you guys. There's no doubt about that. Half of our economy, half the stuff comes there. But it's probably way less than half now. I don't know what it is. But we've already dropped like 16% at like mid last year. By mid last year, we dropped like 16% trade with the United States just from the tariffs alone. Okay, it lost in trade, but we made up another 24 to 32% with other countries. So we didn't lose, we actually gained, right? Now it takes a while for all this stuff to play out, and it takes a year or two before you start to see the fruits of the labor. So there's disruptions, right? And of course, everybody was saying, "Oh, well, Carney's just no good at this, no good at," because you can't snap your fingers and fix the economy in 5 minutes. Therefore, the guy's no good, right? And it doesn't work like that. You have to look. Okay, well, what policies are they doing? What policies is Trump doing? Trump doesn't do policy. He does Twitter. He really doesn't do any it's all like fiat. Like it's as Ron Paul would say. Executive orders shouldn't be allowed. Like it's like rule by fiat. It's like, okay, well, we can't pass the law properly, so we'll just do this until the courts shoot it down. That's all Trump has been doing. Now, I understand, some of the good stuff that Trump wanted to do gets shot down, even by his own side. Like nobody wants to work with him, right? Because they're, But Trump appointed people that were against him to begin with. Like the guy, like again, it makes no sense. Now he's got the crew that's kind of going with what he wants to do. But the problem is they're all lunatics. They're all fucking lunatics. Um, and they're like they're rich people, but they're not good businessmen. Like this idea you're going to bully your way into a trade deal. Like Trump looks at every deal like a real estate deal. I win, you lose, therefore it's a good deal, and that's not how trade works. Trade has to be mutually beneficial, or else it just doesn't work. It can't be one-sided. There's no like doesn't benefit long term, short term. It just doesn't benefit. You need a trade partner. The operative word is partner. Right? So you can't threaten or bully your way. So Trump threatened to do all the stuff while Carney was trying to appease him. One of the things was 2% of GDP, right? And because it wasn't done overnight, he's not even close. Well, guess what? About a year later, the guy's been in office for a year, and 60 billion is now 2% of GDP. And we have 13% increase in military recruitment. It's the most recruitment we've seen since 1991. We've got pay raises throughout the entire military. Now, mind you, that could be the bribe for, okay, well, we just paid you more, now you got to go fight and die for Israel. But Carney doesn't seem to be ready to throw himself on that hand grenade yet. Again, they're all globalists. Mob bosses fighting, right? So if you look at what we're investing in military-wide, drone, like, we're putting a big fucking push on drone thing. And the drone thing, look, where we're, like, anti-tank weapons, such as the, even though it comes from Israel, like, we might not be able to get those now because, Leonardo Systems is pretty much blown up in Israel, their weapons industry. But we might be able to get a version from somebody else. But, like, the NLAW anti-tank weapon from Sweden, I believe we're getting those. I'd like to know how many. Like, if we're getting like 20,000, great. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Those things are like, yeah, that's like one of the best anti-tank weapons out there. Yeah, get that. The Spike is pretty good because you can use it in conjunction with your artillery, right? And whatever. The 120 millimeter mortar, the 81 millimeter mortar, the 60 millimeter mortar, the 52 millimeter mortar, we got lots of that. The problem is how much did we give to the Ukraine? But now that we're building our own munitions, I'm sure, like, the problem is because there's a lot of stuff in the procurement that they can't give you the details on, like how many of, these B-70 air defense, short-range air defense systems that we're going to get. Like, these are the best MADPAD launchers ever made from Sweden. Right? They're really good. They've got like a 5-mile range or 8 kilometers or whatever. They'll take down, they're probably not as good against fast-moving jets, but they will take down drones. They will take down attack helicopters. A-10s probably, maybe not, maybe 1 hit, 2 hits, whatever, But either way. And then, like your regular MADPAD, Stinger-style MADPAD launchers, I don't know how many of those we have. But again, it depends. Like, Trudeau gave a lot of our stuff away to Ukraine, right? Stuff that we gave away that we could have made money on selling. I'm not for selling weapons to other countries. I'm for every country defending itself, but, build stuff under contract in your country. And this is the route that Carney is taking. It's the route that we wanted Pierre Poilievre to take, right? It's just Pierre has to knock it down because he's opposition, right? But when you look at it, is this what we wanted? Yeah, we wanted to beef up our military for decades. Right now, like I say, our military is the strongest investments we've seen since 1991, right? Or the fall of the Berlin Wall, right? So in other words, we haven't seen a Canadian military procurement on this level since the fall of communism. Like that's pretty fucking, that gives you an idea of what it's been like. So even with the boost we got under Stephen Harper did not do this. So Carney has outplayed Stephen Harper, who I voted for every time, not because he was the guy I liked the most. He was the best leader overall that Canada's ever had. Carney's sort of outdoing him. In 1 year, he's already up to 12 trade deals. So he's got Stephen Harper in 10 years did 45 trade deals. But you have to understand, like when we talk major trade deals, Stephen Harper took us from 5 major trade deals up to 45, right? That's an extra 45. That's 50 trade deals, right? It doesn't sound like much, but when you think of what, like, these are like not little trade deals, like, oh, we're going to get some new products in Walmart or whatever. It's like, no, we're talking gas, oil, pipeline stuff, shipbuilding, space data, stuff like that. Carney, just so you know, we have a space program now that's moving into rocketry. It's still going to be like what Carney's talking about is that we're going to launch our own satellites. Should have been doing this since the 1950s, but no, we said, okay, well, we'll share with NASA. You know what I mean? And the thing is that Carney is really moving into a nationalist liberal move. It's a weird thing, but it's like, okay, well, no, we got to have like a solid, isolated. We got to make our own munitions, right? Okay, yes, there's always going to be government waste. We saw, with the military procurements, we saw it with the C9 rifles that the Canadian Rangers got. They're good Tikka rifles, but the stocks were, the dye was running out of them, the laminated stocks, because they use laminated stocks because that's about the only thing that works in the Arctic. Plastic, fiberglass, all that shit just breaks and cracks, right? So, they're going to spend basically $7,000 a rifle on a $3,000 rifle, right? So yeah, there's shit like that that's going to go on, but that's every government. I would still rather have those tens of thousands of rifles. You know what I mean? Whether the die runs onto your hand, like that's not a fucking. As long as it can go bang, I don't give a shit. Maybe we'll get lucky; they'll sell them surplus for like $1,000. I'll buy one. You know what I mean? They should make those rifles a part of the civilian brigade. You know what I mean? Like you sign up for a civilian brigade. Like the 3rd Rangers is only in the Arctic, but that's what we should have around the entire country. It's like it's a supplement to the fire department. It's a supplement to the search and rescue. It's a supplement to forestry fires, forestry management, national disaster, flooding, like all these things, first aid. And then should jackasses try to invade us, we can shoot them in the face. With a nice government issued rifle. That'd be fucking awesome. And do like Switzerland, okay? You get to shoot once a month. You give them 10 rounds a month, or even 10 rounds a week. Okay, you get to go to you have to shoot at least once a month for 3 years, and then once every 6 months for the next 3 years. And then after that, okay, we'll consider you treating them. With a maximum of allowing, say, each guy to shoot, say, at least 100 rounds, because you got to think of the cost to the taxpayer, right? But like a very Swiss-based model with our gun ownership, I think would be, again, you can't have enough gun owners, legal gun owners in your country. Instead of trying to do the stupid gun buyback, just so you can steal our rifles and give them to the fucking Ukraine, right? Anyway, but yeah, so that is a big step. Yes, it'll be. I think the first submarine is going to be in 2035. We have the Kaesong 3 doing a historic navigation, 14,000-mile navigation to go meet up with. There's a naval drill. I forget where it is in the Pacific. I don't think it might be the RIMPAC thing or something like that. I think that it's around this time of year that they do it. They're going to meet up there. We already have Canadians on board these South Korean submarines as monitors and getting familiar how the systems work and all that. I don't know about the German sub yet. There's only 3 of them, and I don't know if they're, if they kept one as a demonstrator or if they're all 3 of them have been sold. But I think we should have Canadians on both. It really does seem that we're putting a lot, because the Kaesong 3 there's already a couple of them out there. And they have their demonstrator, right? So the South Koreans, like this is more than a sub deal. They're also looking at bringing in a Hyundai deal with the sub deal. Like it's like all the icing at, like I've never seen like a weapons deal like this, where it's like, okay, if you do this, not only will you be building the sub in your country, not only will you be building the torpedoes in your country and have a maintenance center in your country, but we're also going to work on battery technology with you. I forget what was with the other gas development we were going to do. Um, it was either argon or something like that as a side deal, and on top of that, we'll make you a deal with the Hyundai cars, manufacturing. Something I don't know what all is entailed, but like it's like a deal, like it's like oh my god, like talk about cake and eat it too, right? And Germany's trying to do the same thing, where Germany has a sub that's developed for the Arctic. Um, it's smaller, like it doesn't have quite the capabilities of the Cane Song. What I think we should do is like 12 of the 212 CEs, and then maybe 3 to 6 or another 12 um, K songs. Because both subs, like it's really hard to choose which one's better. Like there's a lot of advantages to both of them, and they're just different approaches to things. But like coastally, especially up in the Arctic waters where there's a lot of shallow depths there, I think the smaller sub would be better under the ice, and it's a stealthier sub. So from sub to sub, or it could be better. But if you have to like knock out like radar installations on a coast somewhere, the K-Song has those 10 BLS systems. It's a very unique sub. But how good is it? Like it'll be telling if like they do this 14,000 mile range without any problems. And they're coming here to Canada. So by June, I think they're supposed to make the call on that, right? But I thought I'd bring it up because it all plays in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. But again, it's what Carney's doing. It's not that I like the guy. It's what he's doing. Trump. Well, they're now trying to get another. And you have to understand, it is a stimulus to the economy. It is debt. But the difference is that going back to the Avro Arrow that I'm always bitching about, when they canceled the Avro Arrow and bought those Voodoos, it cost the same amount to. It would have been still would have been cheaper overall to have finished the Arrow program. Plus, we would have had the beginning stages of a fighter industry and an aerospace industry advancements in our country. And even if we overspent on it, the money stayed in the country, right? Like right now, Canada is the second fastest growing GDP in the G7. Right now, how they're getting those numbers and so that you can debate on that. And the number one is the United States. The difference, though, is the United States, where their GDP boost is all this military spending on the war. They just lost something like about $1 billion worth of aircraft in the past month. It's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And that's all debt. Whereas spending all this stuff, building it all like building the new ammunition. We used to buy all our ammunition from like Germany and the United States. Now we're going to build it here, which every country, that's a no-brainer. You build just because this idea of that, we're going to get it cheaper there, so we'll do it there. But you like your military, okay, yes, you don't want it over bloated. Sure, I get that, but you have to be 100% self-reliant. You cannot get parts from other countries and expect to survive a war. Like you need to build it in-house. How do you think Iran is defending itself right now? It's not relying on all this other stuff coming in. Yeah, so FPT drone. Yeah, it takes about 2 years to training for your average FPV drone dude, right? And the thing about that, I'm just gonna turn on another heater in here. 12 degrees is a bit kind of cool. I've been trying to save, on the heat in here a bit too, so maybe I'll turn on this one here. Or my poor guitars. But yeah, these FPV drone things, okay? Which, guys, if you've seen the drone footage of these poor bastards in the Ukraine getting whacked by these things, doesn't matter if they're the Russians or the Ukrainians, like it's completely heartless. It's so cruel how these people are dying. Again, don't worry, the world elites don't have to, their kids don't have to suffer this. Again, all these people that sign us up to wars should have to forfeit their lives after the war. You know what I mean? Like, you believe in it so much, you should have to forfeit your life or your children's lives. If they're too young to fight, we'll give them lethal injection. The idea is that when you want to send everybody else's kids to, like, we have war not because the common guy wants war. We have it because of world elites and politicians and bankers, right? That's why we have war. But 2 years worth of training on these FPV drones. Okay, now the thing is, Iran is a funny country because their propaganda, okay, you could take it with a grain of salt. You should take it all with a grain of salt. But their propaganda counters so well sometimes, where it's like, we're going to land on Karg Island, which I'm still not seeing it. Like, I was listening to some military analysts. Like, you can't just listen to American military analysts, whether they're for or against, right? Because, like, for example, I listened to these ex-fighter pilots, veterans, and, like, they're like, we're unbeatable kind of thing, right? Like, oh, look, here's an aircraft shot down, but okay, it's not really technically shot down because it landed, right? The pilot's going to, in stable condition. So the F-35 pilot was injured bad, is what they're telling you, right? But to them, they just see it as a fluke that it got hit, not that, like, it was intentionally hit. There's footage of, I think, an F-15 and an F-18 dodging some sort of a Stinger missile or whatever close. So it doesn't mean the aircraft didn't get damaged, but it didn't get damaged bad enough to knock it out of the sky. So what this is telling you, like, these guys will still tell you that they've got air superiority, but like, no, you don't. It's contested airspace. If you're watching video footage of F-15s and F-18s or Super Hornets, like, having explosions behind, like, inches behind the fucking aircraft, that is contested airspace. Yeah, they didn't get lucky on that one, but, it's a matter of time before, like, how many missiles do you fire? Like, maybe they got to fire 10 MADPADs to get one kill, maybe 100, right? But they're going to get a kill. You know what I mean? And every time they get a kill, it's going to hurt. You know what I mean? You're going to lose pilots. You're going to lose this. You're going to lose that. But the Iranians, we've all seen, like, we all think of the Iranians like, okay, well, they're not going to be able to defend Karg Island with rockets and Shahed drones very well. Like, it's it's just, it's not the right type of target for these things, to a degree, right? And you're correct. But you're assuming that's what they're going to use for the battle. There are soldiers on that island dug in right now. And they say, well, we'll just take them out with FPV drones and artillery and whatever. Well, okay, but how are you going to get the artillery there to, what I mean, to take them out? Like, it's like this idea that you're just going to run, 7,000 guys up onto the. There could be 20,000 guys sitting on the island or 50,000 guys sitting on the island. You're going to get overwhelmed just by rifles and mortars. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but we'll have the A-10s clear the area. We'll just, like, bombard. Yeah, but they could have tunnels all over. Like, you don't know how these guys are dug in there. Like, yes, they've hit some assets there, but I mean, it's even if the Iranians leave the area, like, it's just getting to the area. You know what I mean? It's just getting, like, the landing craft there is almost impossible. It's 15 miles, I think, from Karg Island to the mainland Iran, which you still have people out there. Well, that's not technically Iranian territory. Okay, so Hawaii's not technically American territory. It's your territory or it's not, right? It's their territory. But the thing is that, like, just getting the landing craft there, like, the Persian Gulf, like, you're not going to just creep along the other side. You might run into a mine, number one, at the choke point, and number two, yeah, like, how do they get amphibious assault ships around the mines? You know what I mean? That takes weeks, months to fucking clear mines. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you can just go and they'll always show you some whiz bang. Oh yeah, but this is like the state of the art mine, mine sweeping. We'll use helicopters. That shit can get shot down because it has to stay on station to find the mines. So you got your Black Hawk there flying around, or Super Stalin, or Sea Dragon, or Cyclone, whatever's flying around. Yes, we found the sea mine. Okay, yeah, we're gonna get ready to explode. By the time you find the sea mine, you've been shot down by an anti-aircraft, SAM, right? So just getting around that, and then even if you could, clear a mine path to get through, now you're at a choke point where you got to watch out for anti-tank missiles or anti-shipping missiles. Which you say, yeah, but the A-10s and the Air Force and the Apaches are going to clear up anything on the ground. We'll take out the entire coastal. You've got 1,000 miles of fucking coast there, or something like that. Whatever it is, 800 miles, whatever it is, and yeah, it's going to be littered with stuff. It's not going to be sitting out there in the open. You know what I mean? Like, this stuff is not easy to find. So you're looking at a situation where you could have all the whole thing sunk in the strait. So that's not how they're going to do it, unless they send in the paratroopers first. But then how do you keep these guys supplied alive long enough? You got 1.2 to 1.5 million troops that Iran has, right? Out of that, the fighting, you got 500,000 just in the Quds Force, right? So even if you could take out every boat and little speedboat and drone boat along the way, just say they again. Well, I'll just I just don't see how they can get past the Gulf, right? Let's say they find a way to do it. They actually using air power. They take a couple of landings to get around the strait. Suddenly they get through the strait. Now they can make it to Cargo Island, right? Then you got to get on the island without getting killed. You'll be mortared the whole way in. There's no doubt about that. Artillery and mortared the whole way in. Even if you try to overwhelm with Air Force, these guys are going to be dug in. It'll take you some time. You know what I mean? And let's say, okay, you can get onto the island. Okay, you got onto the island. You've neutralized most of the guys, right? Okay, and you've chased the Iranian military away, or you killed them all, or whatever. Okay, how many losses do you take? Well, say you didn't take any losses. We'll suspend belief here. You're on the island. Now you control Iran's 8% of the world's natural gas. Okay, great. Now the Iranians might just say, okay, well, here's our card we're going to play. If we can't have it, nobody can. You're assuming that the Iranians won't destroy their own, yes, that's a lifeline for their economy. There's no doubt about that, but they'll recover it later on. So if they could just destroy it all, and then now the world's in a global gas shortage. We're already seeing guys, we're in a global depression. We've been in it for. It's a depression light, but it's about to get really bad. Look, you got all these countries that got days left of gas, days left of oil. It's measured in a couple of weeks to a couple of days now for some countries. Japan was smart. They found a way to negotiate safe passage for their tankers with Iran without pissing off the United States, right? And while diverting some of where they're getting, everybody's in diversion mode. And again, us Canadians, yes, we're going to benefit from this, but it doesn't mean we can just turn up the spigot, overnight, with all these other people needing gas and oil. Sure, it'll benefit us, but it's going to be one of those things that, even the United States, if it wants to increase its gas and oil, it can do that for export. But then it's already short domestically. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, so that said, what I'm thinking is you're probably not going to see a lot of soldiers on the Cargo Island. A-10s will pound everything. You might even send a B-52 over. Just carpet bomb the fucking areas that you think are where they are. You're probably not going to meet the Iranian soldiers face to face, but you're probably going to meet their FPV drones. And each one of these guys carry 2 drones. And you're talking thousands of guys carrying 2 drones. So, yeah, considering the average drone kill is 1 in 3, you send 3 drones. Yeah, you'll lose just in the drones, these personnel drones. They have them in the millions. So for the United States to win and take power there, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to do it without losses. You're not going to take on 1 point. Like again, what's the saying? Only a fool thinks a ship can attack a fort. Like Iran it's fucking Iwo Jima 2.0. Again, they've got a well-trained military. They've got tons of weapons of multiple different types. They're fighting where the Americans are not, basically fighting a drone warfare, cruise missile, and rocket war that the United States is still fighting World War II with, you know what I mean? Like what World War II style, just, okay, yeah, it's a modern age, but it's still a World War II model. It's not working. The most powerful aircraft carrier in the world is tapped out, probably from sabotage, but who knows, right? And that's what, okay, these Marines and everything, again, how many of these guys are going to be loyal to the fight? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. They're going to be committed to it in one way or the other. So, like, these guys know that they're probably going to their death. Yeah, so. What was this one? Yeah, so you got 1.2 to 1.5 million troops. Iran is 1.6 million square miles. Yeah. Cargill and 90% of its exports is what it would cause. Again, if they destroy that, it'll basically create a world gas crisis, oil and gas crisis. And again, it's not something like they're already talking. If you stop the war today, just the gas and oil industries that have been like some of them are going to take 5 to 10 years to come back online, right? Already. So you're talking like high oil prices for the next decade because of Trump and his fucking idiots and Israel. Okay, the Dimona nuclear power plant. That's where they've been firing rockets near it and around it and hitting all like the development centers and everything because that's where they develop basically the Iranians are doing to the Israelis what the Israelis on the nuclear power enrichment program. Well, the Iranians just took out the Israeli one. They won't hit the Dimona plant yet. That's like scorched earth. That's like, okay, we're going to irradiate everybody in the area and kill everybody, Chernobyl style. The thing about it is that that's where Israel and South Africa have developed their nuclear weapons together, right? But the Dimona plant is now kind of like out of commission, but they haven't hit the reactor. Okay. Here's where it gets scary. And again, when Trump does tough guy stuff, the Iranians, they're like, well, you do this, we're going to do that. Like the Iranians seem to have a card to play or 2 cards to play to every one of Trump's threats, right? We're going to knock out this, knock out that. That'll scare the Iranians. That'll make them surrender. And it's like, no, you do that, we'll do this. And one of the things that they're saying is if you take out the gas on Cargill Island, that's our, there's no winner. Like if the Americans destroy Cargill Island's gas thing, there's no point in being on the island. You know what I mean? You just take it out for the air. The reason why they're putting troops on there is to secure it, to steal it, right? And again, Trump has been talking about stealing Carg Island since the 1990s. So when you think that, oh, Trump is just getting, people are just showing him bad intel and he just believes, he doesn't realize how bad this war is. He knows. He doesn't care. He's evil. He's in on it. Again, don't cut Trump any fucking slack of, oh, it's just they're giving him bad intel. No, he doesn't care. He knows. Trust me, he knows. He probably even watches videos like this. You know, I mean, this guy spends more time on social media than a fucking 16-year-old girl. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, his vanity level is like cocksucker level. You know what I mean? Like, it's yeah. I hate the man. I really do. He was supposed to be the good guy. What the fuck happened? But the second you touch Iran's water desalination, which Iran, 90% of its water, 80 to 90% of its water is not desalinated. Like, it's just, you know, they've got a landmass there. They've got wells. Yeah, they have water crisis already going on and stuff like that. But they do have ample supply. Libya was the same thing. Like, that's one of the reasons why they killed Muammar Gaddafi. It wasn't so much about the oil; it was about the giant water aquifer. That, you know, Muammar Gaddafi, as bad as he was as a human being, and he was a dictator. There's no doubt about that. But he also, he was like, you know, he just understood you got to run the Middle East with an iron fist, or the jihadi groups will overrun you. You know, that's why the Middle East is the way it is. You know, like, it's, you know, they'll get overrun by these radicals very, very quickly, like your ISIS guys and stuff like that. But we'll be talking about those guys in a bit. But he was going to take that giant water aquifer and pipeline water all across Africa, North Africa particularly, into the Middle East. Like, that was going to be more water is more valuable than oil, especially in that region of the world. Like, and they're about to go into the summer months, right? Well, it's an inversion when you look at all the Gulf states, where Iran's water is about 80 to 90% there, you know, like regular wells and stuff like that. 80 to 90% of all the water throughout the Middle East and the Gulf countries is desalinated water, meaning it's, you know, water they take from the ocean plants and you know, from the ocean and desalinate it, right? And if you take out that water, okay, within 2 days, people are going to die again. You'll have major you know, people dying of thirst within the 3 days, right? 2 to 3 days. Yeah, they've only got about 2 days supply. That's it. The whole Middle East, they got all these luxury motels, right? But they have to ship in all their food because they'd rather have, you know, gold-plated toilet bowls and Ferraris than fucking build, you know, a sustainable. Like, I mean, you're living on the fucking surface of Mars there. You think they would have fucking thought ahead, saying, well, you know what, maybe we need to secure our water a bit more. Now, yeah. And if you take out those plants, those desalination plants, 5 years minimum to rebuild them. And about $15 billion. Okay, Azerbaijan, Afghanistan fronts. Okay, Turkey, Kurds, PKK, SDF, a 5-party ground operation. Now, this started to make sense to me when I heard a general talking about this. The Carg Island thing, I don't think is where they're going to land the troops. We're going to have to go to the map here. Hopefully you guys can see. Yeah, good. I know you can't see a lot from there, but Turkey. Okay. Azerbaijan, Armenia. Okay. Iraq. Okay. Now, Kuwait, right down here. Okay. The idea, okay, Carg Island is way in here, right? So I hope you guys can see well enough. The idea is to get the PKK, the SDF. Now, Netanyahu and Donald Trump already met these guys here at the tail end of Iraq, right where it meets with Iran. Okay, they've met these guys here, and that's your SDF guys and PKK guys, right? They want to bring them down from Turkmenistan, okay, through Afghanistan, not down, but across, or Turkmenistan. Okay, they want to take them there and get them on this front here, but they also want to get in Azerbaijan. They want to get the PKK guys, which Turkey might have something to say about that, right? They want to get them guys all to meet here. And you basically have the U.S. basically, this is what I think the troops are going to be for. So I still say that most of it is going to be to like these ships. Again, getting people out this way is almost impossible. Getting them out that way is more possible, but we talked about the problems with that too, right? But what I'm thinking is if they did convince these guys to fight here, that's where they would stage their offensive to get into Iran. So in other words, the group is not going to land on Karg Island, they're going to land in Iraq. And probably not with the Iraqis' blessing, but they're going to basically arm the Kurdish PKK and SDF. They've been trying it. This is kind of open, and get them to do the bulk of the fighting. With another front opened up in Azerbaijan, Kurds again, and Iraq with Kurds again, right? And the idea is to get those guys to die the way ISIS and Al Qaeda were, weaponized against Assad, right? The thing is the Kurdish groups seem to be split. Yes, you've always got these guys that want to fight and die and whatever. But I don't know if they can amass enough of a force, because you have to understand, Turkey's going, especially with the PKK, they're definitely going to have something to say about that. They've been fucking at each other's throats for centuries, right? Well, the PKK is not that old, but like the Kurds and the Turks, right? So Turkey definitely doesn't want to see the United States arming groups they're going to have to fight in the future, right? So, like I say, you could see a strange Iranian Turkish alliance just to wipe out the Kurds, right? Now, this would be a problem for the Iranians to a great degree. But the idea that you're just going to run Kurds into Iranian territory, or Azerbaijanis into Iranian territory, and just get them to fight and die for the United States and Israel, is still, I think, a bit far-fetched. Even if you problem some all the kind of territory, like the Kurds in Iraq and northern Syria and stuff like that, they already kind of got the territory they want, right? They've already done that fighting against Assad's guys, and they're like, well, we're kind of comfortable where we're at, right? So I'm sure you'd be able to pay enough mercenaries to do this, right? And the ISIS guys and all that. But how are you going to supply these guys? Because the difference is with Syria, okay, the U.S. could open bases in Syria. They were able to take territory in Syria because the Syrian Arab army did not want to have a conflict with America, right? Because they weren't thinking the same strategy Iran was. Like Iran was like, no, we hit everything. Like you hit all their bases. Like the Iraqis, look, you got Iraqi proxy groups that are, again, a good, and this is like your Trump type people don't understand, right? Okay, well, the Iranians are going to come to the table and negotiate. Okay, you kill the Ayatollah. Okay, the lunatic idea was if we kill the Ayatollah and his top staff, there'll be regime change because people will just revolt in the streets and whatever. They tried it with the Bay Pigs, didn't work. They tried it. Regime change wars never work, right? So they take it as a chance that it might happen, but it doesn't happen. Then you have the idea, and again, if you just want to understand how much Trump is lying when he says the Iranians are talking to us back, they say this quiet and that they want a deal, and out loud they say they don't. I don't understand. Blah blah blah. That's what Trump's saying. Okay, so you say, well, I believe my commander in chief. Okay, riddle me this: you kill the Ayatollah. His son takes over as the new Ayatollah. You killed that man's wife and children. You killed his father. exactly how are you going to get this man to negotiate with you? You know what I mean? Like, there's just like, it's this Hollywood kind of fucking delusions of grandeur that these, it's like, well, we killed them. Now they got to, we're going to kill you more if you don't listen. No, these people have no intentions of losing this war. There's some people that, Iran can't win the war against the United States. Yes, they're already winning. They're already winning. The United States, I didn't think the United States was going to lose this bad. We hit 19,000 targets. Yeah, of stuff that's just like irrelevant. You're hitting like I say, when you look at it, yeah, they get the odd radar, they get the odd rocket truck, whatever. But most of the stuff is like, when you look at it, it's like, okay, that could be either a makeshift rocket truck or it's just a regular fucking delivery truck they hit. And there's like a 99% chance that they're hitting just regular, they're just destroying buildings for the sake of buildings at this point. Yeah, they got the odd thing that's because all the stuff, like the Iranians, their master plan was the mountains. You know what I mean? Like, just, yeah, like, again, remember Bin Laden's secret lair that CNN lied about, and oh yeah, he's got this secret bunker. We don't know how we're going to take it out, and it never existed. Like, it was just bullshit. Well, the Iranians looked at it and said, oh, fuck, that's a good idea. Let's do that. And they, like, you just can't get. There's no bunker buster, no nuke that can get to their. Like, you can nuke the top of the mountains all day. It's, Mother Nature's just not going to notice. You know what I mean? Sure, you hope, like, and again, you see these videos of like just fucking. Here's a nice calm sunny morning, and the fucking rocket just fucking pisses out of the fucking mountain. It's like, where the fuck did that come from? Imagine you're out for a nice hike and some fucking big fucking scud comes out of the ground somewhere. Like I wonder how many people have been killed that way. It's like, it's like, like, never mind mountain lions and goats and shit. Fucking, you might step on a scud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's like the thing is that they're ready for the drone warfare. It's just like they've got multi-layered defense that is very apparent now. That, okay, like, we're assuming that once you get past underneath the umbrella of the rockets and the drones, that suddenly they don't have anything else to defend themselves with. So dismiss the Iranian military, dismiss them, and every time you dismiss them, they come back with something that you weren't ready for. They're fighting you where you're not. So no, Trump is not going to be able to negotiate with the Iranians at all. The Iranians are very simple. They've made demands now that say, here's how you want to know what the negotiation is, and it's open for the world stage to see, is America is going to leave the Middle East, period. You get the fuck out of there. All your weapons, all your bases, they're gone. That's it. They've pretty much all been destroyed or, evacuated anyway. All your troops will leave the country. Like, that's it. Israel's on its own. It's not like the United States can defend Israel anyway. Nukes are not really going to make that much of a difference. You might kill most of the population of Iran, which is the goal for the Israelis. Like you have to understand, like, people think, okay, well, they want regime change and they want this and they want to kill everybody. They're genocidal maniacs. As a part of the, like, how do you think they're going to get the Greater Israel Project if there's other people living on the territory they want? They're not, right? Like, look, they're already talking about destroying the Saudis, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, and then Turkey after, like they were like, yeah, no, we've got to take them out too, because, again, as these people are, like, basically protecting. Now, mind you, there's a lot of the enemy on my enemy going on, is my friend going on there, where, yeah, the Saudi royals and the Kuwaitis and stuff like that, yeah, they hate the Iranians. I get that. The Qataris, they hate the Iranians, whatever. So, yeah, they're like, okay, I will let the U.S. Bomb the shit out of them because it gets rid of the guys we hate. But we didn't expect them to hit us back. Like, we didn't expect Iran to hold us to account. Now, had Syria done that, like, if it would have kept its rocket forces and say, look, any U.S. base that, it's just the Syrians didn't believe, like, if they would have done that, there's no way ISIS could have been resupplied. And this is the problem you're going to have with the PKK and the SDF, right? Is because to roll those guys into into Iran and resupply them with all the weapons they need to take out the Iranian Republican Guard there. the IRGC, like you're going to have an ample supply. When you have 35 or 50 bases in the area, I think there's like 10,000 people on just one base there. Yeah, you could have C-17s bringing in weapons for ISIS all the time, like they did, in Jordan. Like yes, you had training camps in Jordan, 4,000 to 6,000 guys at a time. Every couple of months, were getting trained up to fight Assad, right? Like that. That's openly admitted. They just called them moderate rebels, but when you track who the leaders were, sitting in those USAID tents, again, and like people thought Trump was a good guy when he went after USAID, and it just turns out no, he was, like it's like he was thinking about it. I don't need these ISIS guys anymore, so whatever, I could cut the funding there, and put it towards something else, because he truly, like Trump, truly believed that the U.S. military was going to be able to take on Iran. There's like even Obama, as bad as he was, and Obama, trust me, he was evil. There's no doubt about that. Like every U.S. president has been completely evil for, it's just Obama was not as foolish with Israel. He was like probably the most anti-Israel president, by the, like Fox News and stuff, but he wasn't. He still did other things to appease Israel, keeping wars going, Iraq, Afghanistan, blah, 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 Guantanamo Bay, you name it. Now, here's the irony. What Obama was basically probably the best friend to Israel. In other words, he was saying like, well, look, like him and Netanyahu, it was very like known that they didn't get along. But basically, he was probably telling Netanyahu, look, we can't defend you. The Iranians are way too fucking advanced right now. This was back when Obama was in, right? That's 2012 or, 2000, late 2015 to 2016, right? It's like, look, we can't defend you. There's like, they'll overrun us. You guys will be killed. You'll be fucking pushed into the sea. But like again, Netanyahu he's a retard, right? So like these Zionists, again, the 80% of Israelis are on board with what's going on, like again, that's why I call them out. So like again, you reap what you sow. If you guys want to kill each other, go ahead and kill each other. Just leave us out of it. Problem is when our governments are captured by the Zionists, and other Jewish lobbies like every Jewish lobby is anti-West. Like there's none of them that are, out there for freedom of speech, or that they're all either communists or Marxist communists, or, pretty much Zionist, right? It's not like, don't take my word for it, just listen to them, Like every Jewish organization is an anti-white organization. They hate European because they got to destroy Amalek. Again, listen to Netanyahu. He says the quiet part out loud. Sure, the secular Jews don't all like him. I get it, but they want communism and not Zionism, and even though they're so closely linked, you know what I mean? Like they're just arguing how they're going to destroy Edom, Amalek, the Goy. Like that's all they're arguing about. Like so they're not arguing. Like again, it's just, and it takes a while to figure this out, but once you figure it out, it's like, okay, well, like it's there. Most of these people are nuts. Like everybody agrees that Zionist evangelicals are nuts. Like, I mean the West Baptist Church, totally nuts. Like everybody knows that. Like it's just a known thing. And you could say it out loud because it's not controversial to say it. They're radical people, right? I mean, they're all bad people, but they're radical. They're clearly radical. But you can't ever say anything bad about Jews, or critique them at all. But the thing about the Jews is it doesn't really matter if you do or not. They're their own worst enemy. They're already dead. They don't know it yet. We are in the 110th explanation of the Jews. I've been telling you that steadily since 2015 and since 2010. Said, look, the stuff that they're doing, okay, and they do on purpose for multiple different reasons. Some of it is just spite and hatred of white people and Europeans and whatever, because Rome did something bad 4,000 years ago to us, right? There's that, the blood libel. Then there's just we're the chosen people, everybody that's a goy is cattle, blah, blah, blah. There's that. And then there's I'm a Marxist, communist, anti-white, social justice war, LGBT. There's that too, right? And then you've got just your run-of-the-mill. Like, again, you got 123 different tribes of Jews. and almost all of them are anti-West at their core, or they're like, if they're not okay anti-white and they're not communists, they're not full Zionists, they're just like they're hyper individualists that, oh well, everybody should just be a global citizen, so we need open borders because everybody just the libertarian stuff, right? Like that's it. All Ayn Rand was a Jew, you know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't really matter what flavor you pick; they're problematic, and as a group, these people are incapable of self reflection to their own detriment. And then there's just the end times prophecy people, which is the Zionist evangelical doomers, uh, and the Zionist doomers. And again, you have Muslims that are in on this too, where it's like, well, it's now Armageddon. We got asteroids flying around, hitting getting nobody's covering it. Like, you got like fucking meteors pelting the shit out of the earth the last past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Is it what's called Project Wormwood? I don't know. Hope not, because if it does, we're gonna get 3 days of dark, 3 days of fire and brimstone's coming at us. Maybe we're lucky it'll land right in the Middle East and just fucking end it all. And maybe make an appearance in Washington or something like that. Again, trust me, if Wormwood comes along, if you don't know about the Wormwood prophecies, it has to do with end of days, right? And you have to understand, like, the Mashiach, the red heifer, all that stuff is a big thing going on in Israel. Like, they truly do believe, Trump is the reincarnation of Cyrus, the Mashiach is coming, end times prophecy stuff, right? And again, when people with that much money and power are in on it, what do? Right? Don't get killed in the crossfire. But what I'm saying is, the next phase of this war, like, I don't know if the Marines have landed today. So it's like are they just going to hit the beach running? I don't know. I still think the phase one is going to be get all the citizenry out of the Middle East that are like Americans or whatever. Like, Iraq is attacking U.S. embassies. They've got drones flying above their embassies. They're taking out basically deserted bases. Well, they look deserted, like it's either early morning or late evening. Like, I know the desert's hot, people are not going to be outside all day, but it's a military base. You've got shit moving around, like quiet military bases. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't happen. That tells you that the United States has lost the military bases. So when you listen to this guy at CENTCOM just going on, showing you the highlight reels of, basically hummus trucks getting blown up, and the odd rocket truck and the odd drone getting, again, some of that stuff is decoys too. You know what I mean? We don't know how many decoys, is it half? Is it 10%? Is it 2%? Is it 90%? We don't know. Well, you'll never know. And nor would the Americans tell you if, because that'd be a humiliating defeat. But look, the Ukrainians and the Russians are both, a lot of the stuff we took out an S-300. And it's like, when you see the smoldering stuff on the ground, it's like, okay, from 20,000 feet or from a drone or whatever, 20 miles out, you can't really tell, right? It's like something's burning, but we don't know what it is. And then you got your troops go by it on the ground, and it's like, oh, it's fucking plywood. You know what I mean? It's paper mache. It's like, yeah, so we don't know how much of that's going on. And you have to understand, a lot of that is, like, for example, the Viet Cong did this too. They would put out like paper mache missiles, SAM sites, and make fake dummy SAM sites to get the A6 intruders to come in and bomb it. And they would let them bomb it week 1, week 2, week 3, and they would just keep replacing it, right? And then week 4, suddenly the guys, oh yeah, here we go again. We'll go and bomb it with the A6 intruder, and we'll come in, and then as soon as they come in, just as they're bombing, then the real ones turn on, and like, it's a cat and mouse game, right? So you have to find out where the radar signal is coming from. Yes, the Americans have a bit of an advantage in the radar jamming and stuff like that. Whatever. Again, how, like, the fact that we see now 2 different aircraft, a Super Hornet dodging surface-to-air missiles and a F-15 dodging surface-to-air missile. Okay, we don't know how many are actually hit. So whenever you hear the Iranians say, we shot down this, but we don't see any footage of it, I mean, they could have shot down something like 75 miles away, and to go confirm the wreckage might take 2 weeks to get there. You know what I mean? Just because, like you can't just travel on the roads easy because you might get taken out by a drone or what. You know what I mean? Like, you can find the shit after. You know what I mean? So there could be more aircraft shot down that is known. But we know that, like if the Americans have lost 30 Predator drones, that's $900 million worth, or $30 million a piece, guys. Like that, that's so much. Like that, yeah. It's just it's yeah. But the last thing I want to cover for today is because again, the Iranians. I think when we see the ground phase, like, sure, you can get the PKK, and the SDF trained up with drone warfare and stuff like that, sure. But my hunch is that they're not going to be able to take the Iranians. Iran is going to control the entire Middle East. They're not going to just, like people say, all they have to do to win the war is survive the war. They're not going to just survive the war. They're not doing that. They're not just, okay, well, we're going to, keep them at bay. No, what they're doing is they're still selectively hitting targets that are of value, right? And they're working up the escalation ladder. Like they're like, no, we're going to hit this, we're going to hit that. You hit this, we'll hit that. But they're still every night they're targeting certain stuff. Like I think like for example the Arrow 3 system that Israel has ran out of missiles. You know what I mean? So it's not even like. Most of the early warning radars have been taken out. Like every time you take out a radar, it doesn't matter how many missiles you have. So the Iranians are really focusing on radars, right? And I think what's happened is this is why you're seeing all this panic with the troops going there, is that they're going to have to do boots on the ground extractions to get the people out of the embassies, to get the people, all the tourists out of there. You know what I mean? I think that's what that's going to be for. The second part of it might be, okay, well, we're going to have to take some Humvees or whatever, MRAPs, over to to get to these other guys so we can arm them up and train them up so that they can fight against Iran. The problem is you can't train these guys in like you can't train the PKK and SDF in Jordan anymore at 4 or 5 like you could against Syria. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't work like that anymore because those bases will get hit. Like as soon as the Americans land, you better believe there's going to be drones flying into their barracks. Where are these guys going to stay? Like obviously motels are not the place to stay. You know what I mean? And staying in large group is not good. And all your intelligence officers, as soon as the Iranian intelligence knows where they are, and my hunch is that you probably have people working. You probably got spies working in all these motels and hotels, right? It's like, okay, it takes them a couple of days before they can report who's in there and what rooms they're in and blah blah blah. Sure, I get that. But if you're a tourist and you're in a motel and there's if you're especially if you're a white dude, they might say, oh, he's probably just a plainclothes military guy. Hit it. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to discern or care if they kill an American civilian or American soldier. You're American. You're their enemy, right? Your country bombed their country. That's all they need to know. And the thing about that, and like a lot of people probably don't understand this, but it's like this war is going to go on for years, right? And the reason why it's going to go on for years, simply put, is not just because the American, like again, the Trump family is making millions and billions of dollars off of this war. Like something like $580 million already made off of this war, right? Yeah, there's that going on, right? But very damp and cold in here. Holy geez. The thing is that sorry, I just got to grab my coat. The war phase is going to change probably within a week or so after there's a landing. Okay, first off, they got to kill as many Americans landed on, in the area as possible, right? Because if they can get all 50,000 or 35,000 soldiers that are in the country already, in these countries already, if they can kill all those guys, right? Those are the guys that are the most recently trained up in the area. So that helps Iran long term in the fight, because now you got to send in new recruits and troops and stuff like that. Not recruits, but new troops that are not familiar with the area, right? And then on top of that, eliminating all the bases, right? Are these troops there to evacuate American soldiers? Probably, because obviously they can't stay on the bases. Look, you would how can you have Iraqi drones flying across bases? Yeah, they took out a Black Hawk. It looks like they've abandoned a lot of stuff on these American bases, right? That's what the drones are probably doing, is probably hitting a few things. Like they took out a Black Hawk and a radar. But if that radar is still going, it means there's still people there. But why are the bases so quiet? Well, they're not out in the open, obviously, right? So again, that means the operations of the bases are greatly disrupted. Now, that also means that when these bases are evacuated, everybody made fun of, Obama leaving all that equipment and Joe Biden leaving all the equipment in Iraq and Afghanistan when they pulled out, right? And it was like all these 2,300 Humvees, 150 artillery guns. ISIS got it all. 70 Abrams tanks. Sure, they can't run them, but they can use them as gun installations or something. Billions and billions of dollars of munitions just left there, right? I think that's about to happen again, which is going to be a humiliating defeat, because you got to think about how many weapons are going to get on the black market. Not only that, once they overrun these places, I'm sure there's JDAMs there. Now, picture the IEDs Iraqis and Afghanistanis had with just like artillery shells. They put string up 5 Russian howitzer artillery shells under a road. Now picture them doing it with a JDAM, 5 JDAMs. You could take out an entire tank column pretty quick with that. Think of the drone bombs they're going to make with these American JDAMs. Now a JDAM, you got to get 40 miles within your target, to drop it out. And people still think just because Trump says it and whatever, that, we're flying over Iran, we got complete air superiority. They do not. They are not flying willy-nilly over Iran the way you think. When you see the footage of stuff blowing up, that's the drones taking that. That's not the F-35s. The F-35s are 100 miles away. The problem is these long-range standoff weapons are running out. Right? There's still lots of them, but, again, this war is chewing up a lot of weaponry. And it's amazing how fast the weaponry gets chewed up. Because people have this Hollywood video game kind of mentality that, okay, I'm flying around my F-35. Oh, I detected a SAM site, bang, lock onto it, fire. I got it. That's war thunder. You know what I mean? We detected a signal. Okay, what is it? We don't know. Satellites over the area, can't really see what it is. The drone can't seem to find it out, but it's coming from there. It's is it a, is it a SAM site, or is it we don't recognize the frequency of this, or is it a gas generator? You don't know, right? You don't know. Right now, I can imagine throughout Iran, there's people using gas generators left, right, and center, because all the shit blown up, right? You turn on those gas generators. The gas generator, you can fire a missile at one thing and it might lock onto that and hit that. That's a bunch. Americans killed a bunch of British guys in Afghanistan that way. They killed I think it was just. I forget what it was that. Anyway, some A-10s blew up. Killed some Canadians like that too in a friendly fire, fratricide. And it was something to do locking onto this signal, right? And that signal just happened to be, the good guys, right? So again, are they firing missiles at gas powered generators? You don't know. You know, you don't know. So it's not easy. Like this idea that everything just works like a video game clearly doesn't. I would say most missiles have a 50-50 win loss in a real war. Maybe on the high side. Like, for example, in Iraq and Afghanistan, yeah, when you had 15 minutes to lock onto your target and verify your target and do all that stuff, and you could guide the bomb, your JDAM, right to the target, yeah, you probably had about an 80 to 90% hit rate. You know what I mean? Or maybe even better. And a few dud bombs would go astray and kill a whole bunch of civilians. But when you're 120 miles out firing a missile, at what you believe is a target, your drone is telling you you got a target, and you're getting relayed off the drone. Okay, you probably get a 90 some odd percent hit rate, but then you lose the drone every time, right? So maybe not every time, but if like more and more drones have been shot, we won't know how many drones have been shot. They could have lost hundreds of drones. And again, once you start running low on drones and you're solely reliant on satellite, when your AWACS are all getting taken out, then you're down to the aircraft flying over the target. Once your aircraft flies over the target, you're SAM food. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress. The other thing to keep in mind is that America will not be completely against this war until it hits them at home. And America's about to take a war at home, right? Everybody in the world's kind of noticing all these terrorist attacks, and particularly on Jewish people, like in synagogues and stuff like that all over the West. The guy that burnt the Jewish ambulances, yes, how come they get their own ambulances? That's what, some people should be asking. In the UK, that guy, his family was killed in Iraq by, basically Israel, an Israeli airstrike, a couple of nights before. So you can understand the guy's frustration, right? I'm not saying, don't charge him with whatever, I get that. But if you don't think that's not going to become a thing, it's like, again, the arrogance of the George Bush kind of mindset. Well, they just hate us because they're Muslims. They just hate us because of our freedoms. No, they hate you because you've been blowing them up. It's that's what it is. Now the thing about that is that when the Iranians do decide to attack the United States, it's going to be asymmetrical warfare. You're going to see a lot of wildfires this summer that are not wildfires. I believe most of those are the holy fires. Like there was one guy a couple of years back. Of course, the media will say it's climate change, it's climate change, it's climate change. But they got one Muslim guy lit like 69 fires, and they were holy war fires. That's what he said. You know what I mean? So you're going to get a lot of that. You're going to get those type of crazies. You're going to get, like, again, the property of Allah guys. Those maniacs, like, they're not really ISIS. They're not Iranian proxies. They're just sympathizers that have gone nuts, and they're going to just kill people because. And then you're going to get the guy that, his entire, family, like, you just killed 60 of his relatives back in Iran. Yeah, he's going to come out and shoot a whole bunch of people. Yeah, that who can't see this coming, right? But then you're going to have the real, like, proxy war stuff where it's like, okay, let's derail this train with 15,000 people on it. You know what I mean? Or 1,500 people on it, or whatever. You know what I mean? Let's, fly a drone into this 747 just at takeoff, right? Kill all these people. Maybe you drive okay, it does appear that it was a legitimate accident, but you drive a fire truck out in the middle of a runway where people are trying to land, like shit like that. People are going to get ideas, attack the water supply, the oil, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, America has made a lot of enemies. The West has made a lot of enemies following America and Israel. You know what I mean? And America has made enemies on behalf of Israel. You know what I mean? Because of Israel. Like, this is the whole thing. So, and yet, for some reason, people around the world, and again, it's more than just the money. Like, it's not just about the Jews have a lot of money and that's therefore they have the influence. there's something else there. And I guess this is where the Epstein stuff comes in and stuff like that, where they probably every single world leader's got something to do with Epstein. It seems that's the way. Like you couldn't become a world leader unless you did something with Epstein, and that something is something not good, right? So Trump, it does look like he was diddling teenage girls. You know what I mean? I can't prove that or whatever, but it seems to be coming out like that. Even Elon Musk, like when Elon Musk, took that tirade, was he telling us the truth or was he just trying to hurt Trump? I don't know. Trump took a tirade on him and he got even. But I bet you Elon Musk is in those fucking files too. You know what I mean? I think he is actually. I think they all are. Mark Carney's got a picture of him standing beside fucking Epstein. Like I mean, you know what I mean? Like they're all in on it. They're all fucking evil. Like I'm sure there's some of them that it's just a coincidence that they're standing. Oh, this guy just socializes with so many people. Like obviously Epstein was looking for who was going to be in charge, right? That's why he's got pictures with everybody, right? That does not necessarily mean everybody that crossed paths with him is guilty, but it does mean that it is suspicious. That you need to be deeply investigated. And it's very bizarre that all the top cops and all the top lawyers will not touch this case. Or they're looking at it, but we found nothing. Yeah. You got 6 million fucking documents and nothing, right? Nobody goes to jail, just more war. You know what I mean? Like it's evil. It's just complete evil. But yes, the Iranians are going to, like, you killing their people. You know what I mean? Well, it's because they're the bad guys and terrorists. They've been attacking us for 47 years. Okay, well, name the attack. Like all these people that are parroting that. Okay, yeah. Well, what attack specifically that is linked directly to Iran? Well, that's not hyperbole or hearsay. You know what I mean? Like it's it doesn't mean it's not possible, but like again, when you really dig into it, it's like no, the Iranians haven't really attacked anybody. Do they have proxy groups? Yes, but so like if you're look, Soleimani might not have been a nice guy, but I'm sure a lot of the Iranian people didn't like him. But he was the number one guy to destroy ISIS, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump was helping ISIS. Netanyahu was helping ISIS. Netanyahu was giving fucking Al Qaeda and ISIS members fucking, on TV, giving them fucking medals in Israeli hospitals. The ISIS guys constantly were well documented running back into Israel to the IDF. And then they go across the border, shoot at the Syrian guys, and then run back into Israel. And they would shoot from Israel because they know that the second the Syrians would fire into Israel, then Israel, oh my God, oy vey, they're attacking us, bring in the United States, right? Yeah, like again, the Syrians, they tried to play a safe war where, okay, we'll just get them on our territory. And they were winning. And then in the 11th hour, they got fucking. It was a combination of the military collapse of Syria, which like the Syrian army didn't give up. It's just they couldn't fight anymore, and the Iranians couldn't get them enough weapons to keep the fight going against the ISIS and the SDF and all that, right? So the problem they had was that they just their military collapsed. You know what I mean? And then as soon as they did, the ISIS guys took over right away. Yeah. But again, putting those people in power, it's not really working out for Israel either, because now those are the guys that are helping Lebanon. It's like, who knew, right? Yeah, and Lebanon, again, like the Israelis are getting fucking hammered by them. And, a sign, like, yes, there's still Iron Dome. You still see Iron Dome missiles going up, but you don't know how the footage is. And I know there's a lot of, like, last year's footage mixed in with this year's footage and stuff like that. The Iranian rocket attacks have not slowed. They've paced themselves. Very clearly, that's what is going on. They're paced in such a way that when they want to hit a target, they fire the appropriate amount of rockets for that target because they don't need to overwhelm the Arrow system, the David Sling, or the Iron Dome, or many Patriot. There's not many Patriot missile systems left, and the radar stations are pretty much all done. So this is why the Hezbollah rockets are coming in, and this is a real bad thing for Israel because, like the Hezbollah rockets are the easy ones to stop, and you can't even stop those. They're not that effective, but they're still doing damage. Like if like there are some Israelis saying, look, this is what my city block looks like now. It's completely like half a building's gone from one rocket blast. I mean, there cannot be a single glass window left in fucking the entirety of Israel right now because just all those blasts, right? You're talking probably $500 billion worth of damage already just in infrastructure. Who knows? It doesn't matter. America's going to pay to rebuild it if the Israelis live long enough. It's just, look, once the Iranians take out the desalination plants and like again, they probably won't take out the Israel might do it just to blame it on Iran because they wouldn't care about killing their own people to do this, right? But the thing is that once they hit the desalination plants in Israel, okay, that's it. 3 days later, every Israeli is going to be dying of thirst. Literally dying of thirst. 3 minutes without water, the average person. 3 days without. 3 minutes without air, the average person dies. 3 days without water, the average person dies. Some might hold on, for a week, whatever. But the average person, right? And 3 weeks without food, the average person dies. 3 days without food, the average person starts to consider cannibalism. Like that, like you got to think about how bad this is going to get. You know what I mean? Like it's like again, you reap what you sow. You leveled Gaza and you laughed about it, and like they fucking rape babies and they do all kinds. The Israelis are fucking evil. Is it all of them? No, but like the IDF, they're like pure evil. That doesn't mean the other side's any better, but it just means like, well, you started the war. You know what I mean? Like Israel started the war and it's still blaming everybody else for its problems, right? And nobody around the world really wants to help Israel because, like, what do they have, like, other than the Epstein stuff? Like, why is everybody afraid of fucking Israel? Like, it's like, tell these Jews, no, you're not going to destroy our planet. We're not going to fight any more wars for you. Go fuck yourselves. You want to die? Go fight, die? No. They want us to go and fight and die for them. The Americans, you got 70 million Americans that are willing to do that. I don't know why, but, well, I know why, but, the evangelicals, yes, they're fucking retarded. I get that. But the majority of the world is very anti-Israel right now, very anti-Jew, because we can see what they're doing, and it's openly admitted stuff. That's why the criticisms are there. So they're going on about anti-Semitism laws right now. Well, it's not really going to make a difference in 5 years because, like, we're about to see the elimination of about 7 to 9 million people in Israel. Like, it's like the Israelis, yes, they got a bit of an air force left. They've got, the tank forces and stuff like that and armored vehicles, but they're losing a lot of armored vehicles. Like, if they lose 13 Merkava tanks per week, okay, you're talking about a 2-year war for Hezbollah to wipe out all their tanks. But they're losing the vehicles fast because the recovery vehicles, these big bulldozers, these Israeli bulldozers, you probably see them. They're like, you can shoot at them. They're fully armored, right? The guy goes, okay, the Merkava tank, he goes and doesn't even have to get out of the vehicle. They can just hook onto it and pull it out, right? Well, the anti-tank weapons can destroy those too. So they can't even recover these damaged tanks. And then there's the parts problem. Like most of the Merkavas, the chassis are built in Israel, right, with their weapons industry. But a lot of parts for their tanks come from Germany. Like Germany is like, because of the World War II thing, they've been basically guilted into just giving Israel anything they wanted. Most countries have for some reason. Anyway, yeah, so they have German subs, these little Dolphin class subs, which are like U-31, U-214, U-212 style subs. They call them the Dolphin class. And they can fire nuclear cruise missiles, which they might use those Dolphin subs to basically attack Iran, but it's not enough to make a difference. Not enough to make a difference. Look, Israel can fire its entire nuclear arsenal at Iran, and it's still not going to win the war because you have way too many guys underground. You know what I mean? You got way too many guys on. You'll kill a lot of civilians, but the second you do that, yeah, like the Arab world is so mad at Israel. Like the Israelis, it doesn't really matter where they flee to in the world. Like everybody's being polled right now. Would you want to take on, Israeli refugees? Like everybody's like, fuck no, we don't want them here. I don't want them here. Like I don't want any refugees here. You know what I mean? Like leave them in their own country. Maybe we can help them in their own country, whatever. But Israel, no. Israel's like, no. You reap what you sow. You started a war. You're losing, and now you're crying about it. You know what I mean? Like Iran was supposed to just give up when you said ceasefire so that you could reload again and attack them again. No, the Iranians know this is the last chance. They've got to make it count. They've got to damage the United States so badly that you won't be able to just rearm 6 months later and come back. So you're going to see the weapons industries getting taken out in the United States too. You're going to see the Pentagon hit. You're going to see marine recruitment centers hit. You're going to see all that stuff coming to fruition, probably by midsummer, if I had to guess at it. Right? Do I know for sure? No, but can I guess at it and say that's most likely what's going to happen? Yeah, who can't? Right? Why? Because the thing that the Iranian military probably knows is that the main attacks are sure coming from from Israel and the hosting Persian Gulf countries that are hosting the United States. Okay, yeah, that's the direct line. But the resupply comes from the United States, right? The manufacturing comes from the United States, right? So they're going to have to make sure that they do something. How they're going to do it, I don't know. Maybe they'll use drones. Like, look, all these drones flying around are most likely Mossad and CIA drones about to do a false flag so they can blame it on Israel to get a rally around the flag, which I don't think is going to work. But I can guarantee you, once the power goes out in the United States in a lot of areas, and the internet's down, and this is down, and you can't get gas and oil, or if you can get gas and oil, the prices are again, you're looking at probably $20 a gallon by next year. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be that expensive. We're going to see basically $1,500 to $2,000 barrel oil. And it's like every time you take one of these refineries offline, it hurts the world. You know what I mean? The United States, we're the number one oil producer. Yeah, you got lots of oil, but you can't refine it. You know what I mean? It's weird, but they basically built the refineries to for other gas and oil. Now up here in Canada, yeah, we got lots of gas and oil. Same thing. Refineries a little bit difficult, but the other thing is that we can increase maybe about an extra 4 million barrels a day, I think, tops. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to be enough to supply the entire world. And not only that, it's just not feasible, right? So, Germany, doubling down on the green thing, when they're, okay, sorry, Germany, but you know what? You're going to have to put your climate change thing aside, and you're going to have to do gas deals with Russia. You're going to have to, you're going to have to fire up your nuclear power plants again. You're going to have to, maybe you don't have to do the coal, but you definitely have to fucking get the power plants going, for climate. No, we're going to just double down on wind and solar. You can't power the fucking country on wind and solar. Not with a country that size. Wind and solar works on small scale, like on a farm or something like that. But to power a city, yeah. It's just this brainwashed religion of green technology, right? Without practicality. I'm all for green technology, but there's if it was that easy to do, everybody would be doing it. For years people said, oh, we don't have electric cars because the oil companies don't want us, right? And then we get the electric cars and find out, oh, well, they're really not. The electric cars actually came out before the gas-powered cars. and they don't quite work as good as advertised, right? Especially up here in Canada when it's days like today where it's really cold out. But anyway, yeah, no, the war is going to be going to the American front. Uh, it's just what targets will Iran pick? When will they pick them? What targets will Israel pick in the United States? What targets will the CIA pick? Who knows, right? Like the Iranians are not stupid. They're like, okay, they know there's a false flag coming to the United States to be blamed on them anyway. So they might as well capitalize on it and say, okay, well, when they do the false flag, we'll hit the actual stuff that actually means something, like the weapons industries, the gas lines. Like again, you start destroying the oil and gas in the United States. Never mind an overseas war. You know what I mean? Like they can't get enough oil and gas to to Israel right now. You know what I mean? Like this is hurting their ability to wage the war. Right? The Iranians have not went scorched earth and say, okay, that's it. We're going to destroy. Like the Iranians are, basically taking down the world. Like the biggest weapon they're using is the world economy. Everybody hates the United States for what they're doing. Like, why is the prices of gas going up in Canada when we're not in on this war? Why is the prices going, like, why is Australia about to run out of fucking fuel in 45 days? Why is the Philippines going black? Because they're running out of gas and oil. You see what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's going to bring world trade to a halt. It's going to take years to get this back online. Maybe it's Bill Gates' net zero plan. I don't know. Probably something stupid like that. Because that's, Klaus Schwab was telling us that, there's going to be all these little wars and disruptions and supply chains and stuff like that in the next couple of years. How would he know this, right? Unless they were planning it, right? So, again, they're all in on it. Like they're all fucking evil. Like but the king dog of evil is Israel. It's the one that started all, like, we're fighting their war. This idea that, and again, you get like your Mark Levines and your, Ben Shapiro's, it's the Americans have, put Israel in such a predicament. They dragged them into you're fighting Israel's war. Like, who would still believe that other than a Zionist, right? Yeah. Like, no, it's Israel's war. Let's, let them take credit for something. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, no, keep your head on a swivel because I can guarantee you, like, shit's about to get much more nuts. Especially when you start to see, like, the cost of food in the States is rising even faster here than here in Canada. And it, again, is self-inflicted wounds from the trade. Like, there's still people that think this, like, Trump's winning on the trade war, like with the tariffs. Like, are you fucking dumb? like, can you not do basic math? Like, it's just go look at the numbers. It doesn't matter whose numbers you look at. And when they revise the numbers, it's even worse. It's like, yeah, like January's numbers are even worse than what they said it was. Of course, it always is. It's like the job numbers come out, they always give you like inflated numbers. And then when they revise it, when you're not paying attention, it's not as good as we thought. And that's everyone. That's even up here in Canada that's happening. But the difference is up here in Canada, it's not as good as we thought, but it's still better. It's still better than the States. Canada, according to the Bank of Canada, even with all the problems we have, and we have lots of problems, there's no doubt about that, we're probably the best place in the world to be right now because of the direction we're taking. So give it 2-4 years, Canada will be probably at least back to Harper level living quality of life if we're not taken out by a fucking U.S. military invasion or something like that. Again, like, Trump has gone nuts. The more nuts he goes, the more his days are going to be numbered. I'm not making any threats, but like, think of all the economies he's destroying around the world. Somebody's going to come after him. Sure, the Russians won't go that level or the Chinese, but the Chinese and the Russians, particularly the Chinese, they're going to get even with you for, going after their gas and oil supplies, right? You have to understand, the second the United States no longer has the capability to fly like again, the carriers are kind of again what we're seeing with warships is that they're obsolete, right? So the number one aircraft carrier couldn't stay in the fight. It was at sea too long, and now they have to like the crew were like we're not dying for Israel. We're gonna block the laundry the laundry. Now apparently there's like a a couple of hundred laundry uh, machines in there or whatever. Like it makes sense. I mean you got so many people, right? But yeah, like the fire in the laundry room, I'm still not buying that one. I'm still saying that something. If it did happen, it was sabotage, obviously. Um, so that means like the next batch of people that go out on which the Gerald Ford has enough damage on it, it's out of commission for the next year. Now, chances are it's probably not that bad of damage. What it is if we lose this asset, it will demoralize the U.S. military to the greatest degree. If you lose an older aircraft carrier, not so bad. But that said, this thing is going to be a sitting duck at the dock in Crete. You know what I mean? Like they're probably going to have to patch it up just enough to get it home. Is that what they're doing? Because again, if the Iranians really wanted a major win, hit an empty aircraft carrier where you don't kill hardly anybody, hit them at the dock. It shows two things. Number one, they can range these things. Number two, they got cruise missiles that'll get that far, or rockets, whichever. But trying to hit rockets on an aircraft carrier, that's not the right target. Like you really need a stationary target. Something at dock might not be stationary enough. It might be, because it is a big target, right? It's huge, like 1,000 feet long, right? So it's like, you're hitting like basically 3 football fields here. You know what I mean? Yeah, so if they sink that at the dock, that'll be completely demoralizing for the American military, particularly the Navy, right? Because then it just says, okay, yeah, if they can hit us there, they're going to hit us here. They can, like, again, why they haven't sunk the aircraft carriers, I think, is a couple of things. Number one, like nobody's considering that maybe the Iranians want the war to go on longer, right? Because as soon as you hit the aircraft carriers, that's it, America's out, right? But they don't want to just get America's out and then come back 6 months later or a year later or whatever. They want America's out and out. Never coming back. So the best thing is what they really got to do, and we'll find out, I guess, we'll find out what the invasion plan is once we find out what the invasion plan is. Now, there's still going to be media blackouts and stuff like that because this is not like Desert Storm where you can film the whole thing because when 500 U.S. Marines storm a beach and go up against 30 Iraqis, like the glory's not like it's going to be the opposite. You got 7,000 troops going up against you're going to have like 50,000 guys coming down on you with drones and shit. And again, they're gonna basically again people like all these people that watch like the Ukraine war with all the drones. And if you've seen it, it is god awful watching these drones, like just the look on these guys' faces when they realize that like this is it, like I'm not getting away, and these drones are almost impossible to fucking run away from. Once you're in the range, like it's just like you barely get a chance to say oh shit, you know what I mean? And half these guys don't even see the fucking drone coming. Like the last thing you hear is that's it. You know what I mean? Just watch the eyes of these people when they get killed by these things. You know what I mean? Like it's now when the Iranians start showing, and they will fucking televise this, and you won't be able, like, there's nothing the internet will be able to do to scrub this. It'll be uploaded nightly on everything. And what they'll do is they're going to show you G.I. Jane getting fucking, killed by a drone. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to show you that. The Americans will not be able to stomach that at all. It won't give the rally around the flag. It'll get revolt and possibly a military coup against the Trump. But, I mean, it's not just the Trump. Like, it's both sides of the aisle. This is the thing that the Democrat people, like, yes, I get it. You hate Trump all you want. But understand your side is just as evil. Just because Obama didn't take it to that level or Biden didn't take it to that level, It's not that they didn't want to; they were working their way there. It's just Trump just fucking said, "No, I'm going to do it." Right? It's just they didn't have a plan. Like the military generals, even the most Zionist pro-war military generals have been saying we can't take Iran. They've been saying it since like 2010, 2005. That like they did these war drills, and the technology has changed a lot in 20 years. You know what I mean? And this idea that we're fighting like the Taliban with cruise missiles, no, like we're fighting a very well organized military here. Doesn't mean they're not going to take losses. Doesn't mean they haven't taken losses. But you can't just say, oh well, the Iranians are, because we're flying and hitting them with so many airstrikes, that we're winning. You can't win from the air. And when you put boots on the ground, you're in their territory where they're dug in. Like your Apache gunship helicopters, there's a reason why they pulled them out of Iraq and Afghanistan, because, yeah, the early days you only had the odd Eagle missile and Stinger missile, old Stinger missile to deal with. But then, like the proxies were starting to get, better like the Lebanese, for example, they're using the Russian Kornet missiles, Kornet 3 missiles. Those things are one of the best anti-tank missiles you can get. Right? You know what I mean? Like the mighty Merkava tanks that were once considered invincible are now pretty much obsolete. You know what I mean? So what? The Abrams tank is going to be better? You know what I mean? When it's an even older tank, it's like, yeah, doesn't matter how many refurbs you do on that thing. Like, yeah, no, it would be a disaster. And again, what people are wondering is like, okay, like again, if I'm a military planner, I know you're not just going to go in willy nilly like that. Like to me, I still say this is going to be an extraction force to get troops out of there safely, to get embassy people out, and any sort of Americans that are there. You watch the news. You're going to see the U.S. Military has said, meet at this embassy or meet at this location. If you want to get out of the country, now's the time to leave. Once we're gone, that's it. You know what I mean? And once you see mass evacuations, especially if it's a military personnel, they're going to try to do it on the quiet, the safe face. But once you see that, then the war's pretty much over. You know the Iranians have won. And for the losses that the Iranians took, comparison to what the Americans have already lost, the Iranians, they haven't lost the equivalent in like they haven't lost like $100 billion or $200 billion of stuff. You know what I mean? Like those trucks are not that expensive that you're blowing up. It's just, yeah, it's going to be a lopsided victory for Iran. Not saying they're not getting hammered by whatever, but their strategy is superior in the sense that the stuff that's of importance, you can't touch it. You know what I mean? You can't touch it. Oh, we took out 390 launchers. Yeah, but they've got 35,000 launchers. You know what I mean? The launchers are kind of getting obsolete anyway. They're not even going to have truck launchers. They're now working on missiles that just you can launch them right out of the mountain. You know what I mean? And it's like they're longer range, more powerful. Like they stopped using the 1-ton rockets. They're now like 1.5 tons to 2 tons warheads every time they land. Every time they do, they take away about half of a building. Like you look at all these buildings, again, you got these Israelis out there like, this is not Gaza, this is Tel Aviv. Feel sorry for us. And they're like, well, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for you. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. The average person, yeah, didn't want it. But, they were okay with Gaza being carpet bombed. Like 80%, 70, 80% of Israelis were okay with that. Now when it's happening to them via rockets, they don't like it very much. Now wait till the Iranians say, okay, well, we're at the point now where we could just hit anything. Like we're out of military targets. We've killed enough U.S. soldiers. We can just hit whatever we want. Okay. level the entirety of Israel. Just don't hit the Dome of the Rock, don't hit the Dimona nuclear power plant. Everything else is fair game. You know what I mean? Which again, if there is a tragedy in here that a lot of people aren't talking about, is the historic sites that are getting destroyed. Right? This is why we don't know what our true history is because of stupid shit like this. Stuff gets destroyed all the time. It erases our history. But the thing is that no, I really don't think that the U.S. general, like Trump is crazy. There's no doubt about that. He's not stupid. He's crazy. He's evil and he's crazy. Netanyahu is the same thing. He's not stupid. He's evil and crazy. Right? Blindsided with their egos and hubris. Yes, I get that. Yeah, that's a thing. But that said, is every U.S. military general and captain of there is reports that they didn't refuse orders, but they're like, no, we can't get the warships to escort just because Trump said go escort escort the tankers, and then when the U.S. Navy says, captain said, no, we can't get that close to the fucking Iranian coast, we'll get sunk. And then Trump comes out and tries to convince all the NATO countries to go send their navies. And then when they're like, no, we're not going to go, sacrifice our guys for your war of choice on behalf of Israel. Then he calls everybody cowards, right? Like, it's just... And I know there's still the people that are like, oh, when the United States gets out of NATO, which I'm fine if you want to get out. Like, I think Canada should be out of NATO. Just focus on, like the Nordic 7. Maybe we pull the Brits in on it, whatever. NORAD. Well, NORAD, like, again, like, we might have to go independent of NORAD anyway, just because of Trump, right? But it does make sense for Canada and the United States, to do that. And then Sweden and Denmark and Norway and Netherlands and Iceland, Greenland. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for us to have that Nordic alliance. And the Nordic alliance is streamlining with Canada, not the United States, because that doesn't make sense. But that said, the European Union military, like a NATO thing, makes sense as well for them, like France and Germany and UK, be a part of that, if you want to call it NATO 2.0, whatever. But the United States, like, yes, they have been the bulk of NATO, but what Trump doesn't tell you is that the hegemony angle of it is why the United States is the head of NATO. It was never about defending Europe. It's about, keeping the Germans down, keeping the Russians out, keeping the Chinese at bay, and and protecting Israel. Like that's basically what NATO is about, right? But NATO is saying, no, this is supposed to be for protecting Europe. You know what I mean? Like, we're depleting all our stockpiles, and then, again, how are we going to fight the Russians, right? And these missiles, these really advanced missiles, you can't just snap your fingers and make more like Trump's. Because, like, the MAGA people that are still, again, maybe 10, 15% of his base is still there. They're like, well, Trump said they're going to build more missiles. He snapped his fingers and did an executive order. But you have to understand, like, at best, worldwide, if you added Japan and South Korea, us, the United States manufacturing, like THAAD missiles, you might be able to make maybe 500 of those a year. At most. Like, it's going to take 10 to 12 years to restore the THAAD missiles that have been burnt up, right? And the thing is 500 missiles is a few days worth. Like, that's the thing, where they're building like 100 of these heavy rockets per month, and God knows how many of these lighter rockets. Just wait till they get into the really cheap, like $300 drone, anti-personnel drones. Like, they must have millions of those things by now. They've been manufacturing them for the Russians, right? And nobody has got a good counter. Like, Canada, we've got these anti-drone guns that stuns them or whatever, and basically impedes them and stuff. We don't have the drone forces to deal with that yet. The Ukrainians and the Russians are the best to deal with drone warfare. And even at that, they're like, don't travel in groups larger than 5 guys. Like it's World War II to have like 100 guys, 30 guys behind your tank. That's World War II. Yeah, like the NATO doctrine is obsolete. It's completely obsolete. Ukraine, Azerbaijan and Armenia were the first to really change the drone warfare. They're not going to get the credit for it because it's so overshadowed by the Ukraine. But you have to understand, Armenia was completely humiliated with these when Turkey and Israel backed Azerbaijan to basically they wiped out all the tanks with these little Israeli kamikaze drones. Some of the Armenian drones ended up, or Azerbaijani drones, these Israeli drones ended up, the Iranians were able to commandeer them with electronic warfare or whatever and steal some and reverse engineer. Hence, you got these Shahed drones, whatever. And Shahed drones 1.0 didn't work that well in the Ukraine. They couldn't take the cold weather. They were shorting out in flight and stuff like that. The Russians took them, redeveloped them a little bit more, and then sent them back to the Ukraine to basically, modify them even more. And then some captured Turkish drones that were supplied to the Ukrainians, the Bakhtar drones. Some of those were captured by the Russians again, and that's where the Iranians are getting the technology. Is they reverse engineer stuff that like these crash predator drones. You better believe they're going to reverse engineer that. You know what I mean? They've already said they're going to do. JDAMs munitions that didn't go off. Yeah, it's risky getting near them, but if they didn't go off, chances are they'll pay somebody enough to dismantle it, and then just take it all apart. The Chinese do this all the time. They'll buy something or lease something just to strip it down to the bare parts, and they will fucking document everything. Especially now with laser scanning and so that you can document. That's how they built their J10s and J5. They're basically Su-30 knockoffs, right? The J30s. They basically, got some from Russia, the Su-27s from Russia, and what they were going to do is buy a whole bunch from Russia. Instead, what they did is they got one and they took it apart, scanned everything, documented everything, blueprinted it, and then they fucking started just fucking mass producing it. The Russians were pissed. They're like, no, you were supposed to buy the design off of us, not just fucking steal it. That's the Chinese, right? So they do that with everything. Especially like I'm in, America's number one ally, Israel, when they built that little Lavali jet that was based on an F-16, they basically took F-16s and, let the Chinese, basically, they sold that technology to the Chinese, right? So, Israel will sell you out in 2 seconds, right? They've done this a couple of times, Yeah, so, anyway. So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens. I can imagine we're going to see some real horrible stuff. When we see these, you're going to see the footage of these guys, U.S. soldiers getting killed and slaughtered. There's not going to be this big grandiose Omaha beach storming. It's not going to be like that at all. So my hunch is that's not what they're going to do. Get the Iranians ready for that battle, sure, whatever. But we're going to get the Kurds and the PKK and whatever to fight them. I just don't see it being a viable option. It'll be a pain in the ass for the Iranians, but you're talking about 3 or 4 years of fighting just to make enough ground. And by that time, there's no way the United States will be able to back these guys, right? Because you can't just back them like you did before in Iraq and Afghanistan or Syria when you wanted to take out Assad, because the air bases that you were getting supplied to are no more. So you're not just going to be able to airdrop heavy lift willy-nilly over the PKK or the SDF or whatever to take out Iran, because the second you do, it's going to get shot down. You might have a hard time shooting down, the Iranians might have a hard time shooting down an F-35 or an F-15 or a Super Hornet, sure, because those things can maneuver and, evade missiles and stuff like that a lot easier. Not every time, but more likely. but you can't evade missiles hardly at all on a fucking transport aircraft. You know what I mean? Like those things, like they take like 6 minutes to fucking fly a 180. You know what I mean? Like you can't just, you know, they can turn fast, but you know you can't turn them that fast, right? They're not going to outmaneuver, you know, proper air defense. They're not going to, yeah. And again, we're hearing of tankers getting shot down. They're not talking about it as much, but they are getting shot down. So out of the 64 tankers, again, what you would, like I said, what you would see is that you would see like a slacking. Like it looks like they're not even using most of the aircraft carrier aircraft anymore because it's like, you know, like they're just too far away from the battle and their sources of fuel are getting, you know, deleted. So again, for the Iranians, like I said, the number one priorities have got to be these big fucking heavy lift tankers because you can't just fly them back to Europe to reload them all the time. You know what I mean? Like you need tankers to get the tankers to get to the tankers, you know, to get to the aircraft. And every time you lose one, you know, and then just think of the ones sitting there for maintenance. Taking them back to Europe for maintenance all the time, that takes them out of this. Takes them out of the theater. Like it's just too far. So yeah, as you lose air tankers, as you lose AWACS, as you lose drones, you're going to start to see losses of aircrafts going up, and you're starting to see like maintenance losses as well. Like where it's just like okay, you know, airplanes are just going to fall out. You've had like a couple of pilot fatigue accidents already. You know, it's not a sustainable war at all. You know. Not at all. Not at all. And ground forces, again, you have to understand, like, they're going to know where to cut that supply off. It won't happen overnight, but within a week, 2 weeks, you're going to have all these guys stranded in the Middle East. And at that point, like, there is going to come a point where, like, again, you start hitting the desalination plants. Like, the regime change that, you know, and again, this is why they do this, right? This is opening a minute. This is why they do this. This is why they bomb like the food supply. Israel bombs the food supplies in Lebanon and in you know the West Bank and you know like what do you call it? You know like what do you call it? You know Gaza and stuff like that. Is the idea is if you take out the water, you take out the food supply and the energy, the populace revolts against their government, right? But the thing is that that's a two-way street. The difference is the Iranians, like yes, you're going to find Iranians that wanted the Ayatollah gone. I get that, sure, but you got to watch that propaganda too. You know what I mean? Because like again, for every one guy that's against the Iranian regime, there's probably about 2 or 3 that are for it. It seems like most of the Iranian people are supporting their military for sure. They might not necessarily like the regime. Again, name a person that likes their government in any country, right? But it doesn't mean like just because they don't like the regime doesn't mean they want to be fucking liberated by the Americans. You know, with you know like 9,000 air raids. You know, like that. You know what I mean? Like this idea, like again, the Team America movie became a documentary, right? So it's like, yeah, we're liberating you by killing everybody. No. Again, the heavy lift aircraft, the air tankers, that is like every U.S. pilot will tell you the same thing. The aircraft carrier is important, but the tanker is more important. Without the tanker, we can't fight the war. You know what I mean? Because you would have to bring in the aircraft carriers so close that they're at unmissable range. And the Iranians will say that, yeah, go ahead, bring these things into unmissable range. They will sink them. And then you sink 3 aircraft carriers. One, like out of the 11 aircraft carriers, super carriers that America has, the biggest one is out of commission for the next year, which suggests very bad damage, right? And yeah, I don't think that thing's ever going to go to sea again. I cannot see why the Iranians wouldn't, you know, either send a sub to fucking torpedo the thing or whatever. It'd be the best thing they could. Mind you, in the Mediterranean, though, it'd be hard to get in there with a sub, but they could do it. You know, there's 2 missing Kylo subs that weren't hit. We don't know where they are. To me, I think they're following the carrier groups around and monitoring. They're not engaging, but they're monitoring. Because again, I think they want the war to go along. They know as soon as they sink the aircraft carriers, like the Gerald Ford is now a bigger target because it's out of the theater, but it's within hitting range, right? You hit it in the range, you know, they're going to bring another aircraft carrier in. It's not going to end the war. Where if you sink it in, you know, like off the Strait of Hormuz or something like that, or in the, you know, the Gulf of Aden, or Arabian Gulf, whichever you want to go by, or the Gulf of Oman, you sink it that close, the American people would be just outraged. You know, that many people getting killed in one shot. It's the same with these mini carriers. I think they're going to let them land, and okay, once they're land, then take them out. You know, because like the more assets the Americans can put in the area, the more potential Iran has to destroying the U.S. military's capabilities of fighting a foreign war, right? And when you're down to long-range bombers only, like at some point, the fighter jets, you know, like you start taking out the tankers. Sure, a B-52 can take off off of, you know, like from Virginia or wherever, and fly the whole way there, fire its weapons and without even getting over the country, and fly back. But here's the problem. Okay, it's going to need an escort. That escort, F-15s or F-22s, that's the only semi-long-range aircraft that fighters that America has. The F-35s, they're much shorter in range, so you need the F-15s, right? Now, if you send the F-35s, you're going to have to send more tankers because, you know, like, they're going to have to refuel more, right? So, like, they might take 3-4 refuelings just to get across the ocean at a moderate speed, right? So you start taking out these tankers. Again, the Americans only have maybe 109 tankers that they had. 7 for sure are out of the mix. You know, when Trump says, "Oh well, no, they're just slightly damaged. They'll be up flying again in like in a week or so." And no, just getting the parts, like you can't just patch these things and put them back up in the air. You know what I mean? And not only that, they're probably going to get hit again. And Ryan Dawson made a good point. He goes, like, the rockets are hit or miss. They either hit your aircraft or they didn't. They didn't just slightly damage it. Because if they hit your aircraft, they fucking blew the shit out of it. You know what I mean? So losing a minimum 2 Israeli tankers, 7 U.S. tankers. So there's between 9 and 11 tankers and about 6 to 10 AWACS that have been taken out of various, again, because you got to look at the Israeli assets as American assets too, right? So add it all in. And then, you know, if the UAE or Qatar or whatever, they lost some. Again, I would be concentrating on the tankers right away because it makes the aircraft carriers have to come in close and be vulnerable, right? So the advantage of the aircraft carrier has been kind of lost, right? The only advantage it has is that it's constantly moving, meaning you have to constantly track it. Where the air bases, well, you can just hit them tonight, tomorrow night, the next night, doesn't matter, right? You know, like I'm sure they've got guys watching the bases for what's landing there. Don't hit it yet. Wait till they put something really valuable. So when you see like the airborne landing, like C-5 Galaxies and C-17s and maybe AC-130s, and you got 30 of them on the runway somewhere, yeah, that's the time to do your rocket barrage, right? You know, and again, it's just a cell phone call of, yeah, how's the weather over in Iran? Good. Yeah, the weather's really fine. It looks like 30 degrees today, you know, or 57 degrees or 12 degrees, you know, whatever code they're going to use, you know. I will take 2 hummus sandwiches and hummus cheesecake. Yeah, you know, and and tomato pie, yeah. Durka Durka. Here comes the rockets, and suddenly, like again, especially if the guys are just landing there, you know, you still got guys on the actual aircraft when the drones come in. But even if they don't kill the guys on the base, it doesn't matter. You take out those assets, now you got 7,000 guys stuck in the Middle East, or you know, 30,000 guys stuck in the Middle East that you can't get out of there because you don't have the heavy lift aircraft to get them out of there. They're having a bitch of a time getting airliners out of the Middle East. Like, I don't think you can fly out of Ben Gurion Airport anymore. Maybe you can. It's kind of like it's a Hail Mary when the pilot pushes the throttles forward. It's like, can we get this airplane, this airliner off the ground before the rockets and drones get here? You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, just in civilian aircraft, I don't know how many they've lost, but like every airport terminal is lost, and the reason why they're hitting the terminals is because that's and the hangars, the civilian hangars in these airports, is because again, like the Americans thought they were going to be really smart and say, okay, when the Iranians hit our bases, they won't be there. They'll be in the motels, and they won't dare hit a civilian target. Well, fuck, were you wrong? Well, same thing with the aircraft. Okay, well, instead of landing the Super Hornet or the F-18 or the F-15 on our base, we'll just land it at the civilian base and commandeer their hangars. Well, they're going to hit those too. Fuck. Like, you mean these fucking Iranians can figure that shit out? Wow. Whoever thought they had a brain cell, right? Yeah. So, like, whoever the military planner is for this one, like, every, like, analyst, even the pro guys like that are pro Iranian war, and there's a couple of them that are like, oh no, we're winning. But even then, they have to acknowledge like the threat, like oh well, Iranian, like that could be a problem for us, but and then they got this like cautious optimism that no, well, just because you took out that many tankers, that many drones, and that many aircraft, but it was all accidents. It's all accidents, yeah, every one of it. And it'll all be back in the, it's really nothing. It doesn't stop anything. Again, like the CENTCOM guy, when I'm listening to him, like you have to understand he's the PR for the general public, right? He's like he knows the military guys are going to sort of watch it, right? But the military guys that are, there, they know what's going on. They know, like, when we watch the documentaries, if the world's still around in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. You're going to have this F-15 pilot. Yeah, it's like, fuck, I got shot down like 4 times, guys. It was horrible. Lucky I ejected over, I had to fucking swim back like 3 times, Got picked up by a fishing boat. Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's like, I couldn't get my Super Hornet like 250 miles from the fucking target. Like, it's like I couldn't hit it. You know what I mean? F-35s, yeah, fuck, they found us every time. You know what I mean? Like, we had to find other ways around. Like, you're going to hear all that later. You always do. You always hear how horrible the war was after. But during it, it's like, no, we're winning. And again, you're going to have all those cheerleaders out there. And again, a lot of it is like, and look, it's, when you watch it on the internet, it's one thing. But when you hear people talk about it in real life, okay? And I'll finish up with this because I've got other things I want to do, such as finish this fantastic book. Guys, every man should read this. Men and women will both like that. Yeah, there's some disturbing stuff in here, but every man in the world should read this book. Every man in the world. Even the gay men should read it. It's like, yeah. Like every man in the world should read that book. But anyway, I digress. I was out at a local restaurant, like my buddy and I, when we're done cleaning the school on Sundays, I won't be, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, hopefully. We're sitting there, and of course, I don't talk about this stuff to people. I'm not interested, even people that, like to talk about this stuff, I don't really want to talk about it in real life. And the reason being is that, first off, if you already know, then there's nothing really to say, right? I don't want to spend all my day talking about this, right? Even though I spend a couple hours a day talking about it. But on the other hand, it's the people that, they're still going by the mainstream media and they're like, yeah, these terrorists in Iran are just, why are they hitting everything? I don't understand. We didn't do anything to them. It's like, yes, you did. You yourself did not, but our country did. And our soldiers are our representatives. Our politicians is our representatives, right? So one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. You can be against the war, but you have to understand, I wouldn't be surprised if an Iranian terrorist or sympathizer would try to kill me or my family. Why? Because we've killed their families. Again, just putting one guy into perspective, the new Ayatollah, right? When you look at it like a Hollywood movie, yeah, we killed the bad guys. Well, no, you kill people. The Ayatollah Khomeini, okay, or Khomeini, however you say his name, the first one, the older one, he chose to martyr himself at his compound. But it wasn't just him that got killed. His wife got killed. I think some of his children got killed. And then, on top of that, his son, you killed his wife and children. And probably other relatives too, and then, whatever. And you say, yeah, there, decapitation strike. Yeah, we got him. And I'm like, okay, ye of no empathy. What if it was your family? You know what I mean? Like, that's what, nobody talks like. And again, there are some people that realize, like, it's like talking to the guy, he's like, he goes, the worst part is all these innocent people getting killed in the crossfire of this. Yeah, I don't like the Iranians, sure, but, I understand why they're shooting back, they're defending their territory. Sure, they're killing civilians, and then, we're killing civilians. That's one thing about the internet that you didn't have in Desert Storm. Desert Storm, you got to hear about it after, right? Because during Desert Storm and, the Gulf War one and stuff like that, you didn't hear about it right away. It's because you watch the CBC, you watch CNN, excuse me, that was rude. You watch all these, mainstream media. It didn't matter if they were left wing or right wing. They were like, oh, our guys are doing this, and then they'd show you here's the interview of the guy on the base. Oh, well, it's tough out there, but things are going good. So you're cheering for your hockey team, football team, whatever, right? But what you didn't see was, okay, here's the A-10 on the highway of death that killed 10,000 civilians or something ridiculous like that. They just, okay, well, it's a lot of civilians. Well, they were all terrorists fleeing. And then when you look at the wreckage, it's there's domestic suitcases and clothing and children's clothing and these burnt out fucking vehicles riddled with holes from depleted uranium shells. You don't hear about all the Iraqi children that died that were playing with the depleted uranium shells from the A-10s. They ended up all getting leukemia. You don't hear about the people with the Gulf War syndrome because they had to fucking breathe in all the chemicals from the, one guy was saying, he goes, we shot a tank with it and it burnt for 3 days. What would make steel burn for three fucking days? Breathing that in, and then we had to go near it to clean it up. And then everybody, oh, well, you're just a bunch of fucking crybabies because you got Gulf War syndrome. It's nothing. Of course, and then you find out after that, no, they knew what it was. They just wouldn't tell people what it was because they didn't want the lawsuit for Halliburton and Raytheon. And again, war's a racket, right? Because it would hurt the stock market. You know what I mean? Again, the stock market is pure fucking evil. You know what I mean? But yeah, now it's no, you're watching guys die in real time being killed by drones. And it's horrific. And right now, yes, it's Russians and Ukrainians. But you're about to see Americans, and Iranians too, but you're about to see Americans, you're not going to see Apache gunship helicopters just killing peoples and thermals. You're going to see the blood and guts of this. You know what I mean? And you're going to see, this one good thing about the school that got hit is that it's 100% America did it. And not only did they hit that school once, they hit it 2 or 3 times, right? Because every missile strike is like that. They when they do a cruise missile strike on a compound, they don't fire 1 missile, they fire 30, right? And the thing about that is that people are now seeing that's how war is conducted, and that you're just mainly killing civilians. You're mainly killing civilians. They've killed way more, Iranian civilians. Even just calling them all terrorists and stuff yeah. And you say, yeah, but they're killing Israelis. They're killing the Jews. Oh my God. Yeah. What did you think was going to happen? You're killing their people. This idea that they're not supposed to fight back and that they're supposed to be happy that you're bombing them. Who fucking thinks like that? Are you fully retarded or what? You know what I mean? But the thing is that the general public, they have a bit of empathy for the Iranians, right? And the Iranians understand this globally, that most people are against this war. Most European countries are they're scratching their heads what's this? Like, this was a war of choice over what exactly? Like, we don't even know what the objective is. Trump going on for years and years how bad the Iraq War was because it had no objective and blah, blah, blah. Why were we even there? Saying all the right stuff, of course. But then he goes in, he doesn't even have the fucking WMD fucking line until after. George Bush did that going in. You know what I mean? Incubator babies. Like they had this big fucking theatrical court thing to when you find out, again, the same, Gulf state royals are, they were always in on it, right? The Iranians knew that. They were always in on it. And the thing is that the difference is Iran understood that, even if they didn't fire a single missile at Israel, that the Gulf state nations are more valuable targets because Israel getting hit, that's fine. Like you're firing missiles over several countries to hit one country, right? And then people are just saying, the Iranians don't have that much of an ability. When their rockets are probably at minimum 50% accurate. It's probably more like 60 or 70% accurate. So for every rocket they fire, there's like a 1 in 7 chance, or 7 out of 10 that they're going to hit exactly what they want to hit. But yet, these guys are third world, they've got no capability. These guys are fucking hitting stuff like fucking mad. Sure, some of the rockets go astray and hit unintended targets. But that's, every JDAM has done that. Every Tomahawk missile has done that. That's what I mean. Like, the stuff is never as good as advertised. But if you just start adding up the tally, like the Iranians are, like, the longer they fight this war, number one, they've already kind of won anyway. It doesn't mean they're not going to take hits and losses, but they know that the Americans have been greatly degraded with just the losses they've taken to be able to fight, to the point where, again, taking that aircraft carrier out of there, even if it wasn't fully destroyed or anything like that, is not the point. The point is it's an obsolete piece of... It's like that thing is going to build the world supply of toasters when they're recycling. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of scrap metal. It's a lot of fucking scrap metal. A big, huge waste of money. Aircraft carriers will still have a role for probably about the next 10 to 15 years. But after that, once you got, like, intercontinental drones, that's what's coming next, guys. Like, the drone warfare is just going to be, it's fucking horrific. And as it gets more advanced where they can, drone swarm, like, autonomously take out like 300 guys in one drone swarm. Like, right now, drones are mainly offensive. There are, like, the Ukrainians are practicing with, like, anti-drone drones, basically drone dogfights, robot wars. I told you guys this decades ago that this was going to happen, right? Until you can completely jam every drone. But then they've got wire-guided drones, right? Which, sure, they don't have the range, but it doesn't matter. If you can get those things 300, 400, 500 yards from over a tree line, it's better than any anti-tank weapon. Because you can call it back on top of that, reload it, and refuel it, or whatever, recharge it, send it out again until you hit something. It's crazy. These fiber optic drones are just like, and they're cheap. They're super cheap, right? And we're assuming that they're not going to take out the U.S. bomber force on American territory. They're going to do that. Like, especially the tankers. You take out every U.S. tanker, Trump's only option will be to go to war with other countries to take their tankers. Problem is now the only way to get there is aircraft carrier. You know what I mean? Like, you have 2,200 aircraft in service, and maybe you can muster up another few thousand, whatever, but they're all going to need air-to-air refueling. The only country in the world that has aircraft, countries that have good, like, long-range aircraft, is the Russians and the Chinese. Sukhois, an Su-27 with a drop tank, has a 2,700-mile range. A slow cruise, right? So they can fly for 10 hours without air-to-air refueling, right? The closest you got is the F-15, which will probably fly about half that range or less. You know what I mean? without drop tanks or maybe with one drop tank, maybe it gets 1,600 mile range, whatever. But that's not no afterburner or like that. That's just cruising A to B ferry. You know what I mean? The MiG 25s, the MiG 31s, well, mainly the MiG 31s, they got like a 4,000 mile range. You know what I mean? Like this, and they can do it at 80,000 feet. That's like the Russians have figured out like they still have the Cold War mentality with their aircraft, where don't make these short range lightweight aircraft like the MiG 29 that only fly 600 miles. You know what I mean? They those are meant for short range, protect the base. Sure, they got air-to-air refueling, but they're put something that can stay in the sky all day, like an Su-34, an Su-35. Like put those. The Su-35 has a little more performance, so it only has about an 1,800 mile range, but that's 3 times more than an F-18. On internal fuel. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? The Chinese, they got the J-20 and they've got the MiG-31s that they have, their versions of it, and then the Su-27 and Su-30 versions that they have, which are similar to the Russian stuff, right? So, yeah, they can fly long range. Canada, we would have had that with the Avro Aero, but we have the CF-18, and even if we get the soft Gripen won't have that kind of range, right? It has about the same range. So it's going to be like a home defense fighter jet. The Eurofighter, I think, might have 1,000 to 1,200 mile range. Again, this is not in a dogfight. This is just flying back and forth. The Rafale, maybe a 600 to 700 mile range, but you get the idea. It's not long enough. The airplane that we had that would have been the best for the job for patrolling, even by today's standards, with upgraded radars and stuff like that, CF-100. Yeah. 2,000 mile range internal. You know what I mean? Maybe we need to revisit that design again and make it, maybe a little bit more stealthy or something. Like the CF-100. Well, we can't call it the 101. What would we call it? I guess we'd be at 108 or 109 in design, right? And just make it a little bit more stealthy. Give it a little bit more wing air. Make it a little more aerodynamic. Give it all the capabilities that an interceptor would need or whatever, even if it's a sub, Mach 1, whatever, just for patrols, you know what I mean? But more stealthier than an A-10, But anyway, I digress. So again, yes, I do believe there's going to be Iranian tax on U.S. infrastructure, particularly military stuff. The Iranians, again, I know it's it's not super easy for them to find the stuff to target. Just because you know where the airbase is doesn't mean you know where what's on the airbase is, right? So that's the downside to the rockets. It's easier to pinpoint buildings and stuff, but like aircraft out on the tarmac, that's more drone food, you know what I mean? And knowing when they're going to be there. So that's the big one. Again, the U.S. is going to run out of places to land aircraft and stuff like that to stage from, right? Because you have to move, all the maintenance, all the parts. Yeah, give it another 3 weeks, and I don't think you'll be able to fly a single F-15 in the area domestically. Not throughout the entire Middle East. Just the parts. Just all the parts getting blown up. You'll have to fly them back to Europe, reload them there. And then once you have to fly your sorties from Europe, then, Iran might start targeting, like I say, European air bases and stuff. And people say, yeah, well, that'll draw the entirety of NATO into the war. It may or may not. You know what I mean? Because, again, and even if it does, it doesn't matter. You'll have to, you'll have to take your bases way back to fucking Finland, to be safe. You're not going to fight Iran from Finland. You know what I mean? Like I say, the bombers can go, but once they get rid of the air tankers, and then you take out the aircraft carriers, at that point you're left down. The only thing that can make it into the Middle East will be these long range bombers, and they can't fly without an escort, because then yes, they would take up their Su-35s if they have them, and Su-30s if they have them, and definitely F-4 Phantoms that they have left. They fucking knock down a whole. Fucking all 1,500 bombers,
F-15 bombers, B-52 bombers and B-2s. Yeah, again, those things, an old F-4 Phantom with a 20 millimeter cannon, just rip those things apart. They won't even, the Vietnam era missiles will be enough to take them out, and they got better than that. And the fact that the Iranians have like the AIM-54 Phoenix, an upgraded version of that, which is even longer range than the American ones, which used to kill out to 100 miles away. Can you imagine some F-4 Phantoms flying up? There's no escort to the B-2s, B-1s, or the B-52s. Yeah, they'd be taking out, 140 miles away. Here they are with their old F-14s taking out B-52s. That would be, the irony would be fucking, like how, how. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, have yourselves a good weekend. Be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing, and have yourselves a great day. Eh? And stay safe. Keep your head on the swivel, because, guys, once that weather gets warmer, all hell's going to break loose in everything. Anyway, there we go.